Seeing the youngest sister of the Ju family killed in Duan Yun's embrace, the remaining three were momentarily panicked. The third brother leading them couldn't help but shout, "Don't panic. Continue to—" He hadn't finished the word resist before a terrifyingly black sword chi, carrying a fresh death energy, pierced through his brother's head nearby. The brother had already fallen to his knees, clutching his head in a struggle. Meanwhile, Duan Yun absorbed the death energy from the deceased Ju family woman while looking at them as if he was looking at someone already dead. Strands of black death energy continuously flowed into his fingertips. Duan Yun couldn't help but laugh with a heroic spirit, saying, "This woman's death energy tastes quite nice." Seeing this scene, the remaining intact man and woman from the Ju family lost their will to fight. The third brother shouted, "Brother, hold on," and crazily retreated. Even though his brother's head was pierced and the Ju family's bloodline was strong, such an injury wouldn't lead to death, but facing old demon Duan in this state is no different from being dead. "To hell with your mother!" As the brother cursed, a sword light spun past, and his head spiraled up into the air. From a promising start to an evenly matched battle, then to being overwhelmed by old demon, and finally being slaughtered, all this happened within a dozen breaths. The change was so rapid that the expressions of the onlookers couldn't keep up with the pace. For instance, a sea lion was still shouting "Charge!" happily cheering for the Ju family, only for the next moment to see the Ju family woman embraced and killed by old demon Duan, and the Ju family's man's head spiraling to the sky. Such changes undoubtedly gave the sea lions a feeling of the sky collapsing. As long as Qingshan survives, there will never be a shortage of firewood. For Ju family members fought old demon Duan to a draw, so with thousands more from the Ju family, old demon Duan is doomed. The resilient sea lion did not collapse, still attempting to restore dignity. Lord Ju's Qinggong is extraordinary. He's already fled so far. Old demon Duan surely can't. Before this person's words finished, a scream echoed. The last woman among the 4 Ju family siblings was chased and cut in half by old demon Duan's left foot stepping over his right foot. As the woman's upper body spun, she bitterly cursed, "Why? Why kill the women first? The men should die more." Speaking, she couldn't help but tremble from the cold, and thus died shaking. Duan Yun disdainfully said, "Damn it! Running slow deserves it." Duan Yun killed without concern for gender. It's merely convenient. This woman ran slow, thus conveniently died first. Now only the third brother remained. He ran in the sunset, running fast. The weaving on his thin clothing almost became transparent due to the tension from running so fast. He truly was the fastest runner among them. Running was indeed a talent. Now the third brother of the Ju family was at full power, utilizing his talent to the fullest. During this all-out sprint, he vaguely heard many voices. "Asan, run! Run! Run with all your might! Be your father's most useful son!" At this moment, Asan finally knew whose voices these were. They were his beloved siblings and brothers whom he'd absorbed. At this moment, Asan felt possessed by their souls, all intentions uniting in this runtime. Run, run with all your might. He wants to live, wants to be his father's most useful son. In the instant Asan looked back, he felt a deep abyss opening behind him. Within the abyss wall was written "Useless son." And Asan knew he couldn't be caught. He absolutely couldn't be caught. If caught, he would be devoured, losing everything. He wants to live, wants to be the most useful son. Asan was already running with a hallucination. The large mouth in his eyes was Duan Yun, whose legs moved in a blur towards him. Duan Yun pursued, also feeling incredulous. This guy's speed was faster than he'd imagined. He'd already used 70% foot power but hadn't caught up. In the sunset, their footsteps like wind rushed from the city to the outside, then from outside to atop the mountain. Running so far, still coming back for dinner? Though separated by quite a distance, many onlookers could still see their figures. Biki City, outside just this single mountain during the run, Asan created significant commotion. He ran with all his might, raising a cloud of dust. This wasn't intentional. It was simply how Asan's movement technique always was. He relied on the power of his muscles' vibrations to accelerate while fearing the abyss mouth behind him and trying to use sand and stones to shake it off. In despair, Asan found the abyss mouth behind him getting closer. That useless sun became clearer. No matter how hard he ran, he couldn't shake off the demon. No, it was getting closer. Suddenly, in a daze, Asan found those words above his head. The abyss mouth had arrived. At this moment, he suddenly became clear, realizing that rushing towards him was not this mouth but that Jojo demon. Yame! D. His voice unexpectedly elongated. He only felt a chill at his belly button. In the sunset, Asan still ran, but he knew he couldn't run anymore. Yes, his legs kept racing forward, resisting fate, but his body remained here, held by the evil, terrifying Jojo demon. Suddenly, Asan started crying. Dad, I'm not the most useless son. I'm not. After saying this, his vision went dark, and he lost all consciousness. When Duan-Yun returned carrying half of Asan's body, it was as if he were holding a statue. Indeed, none of the 4 siblings from the Ju family escaped their fate from the demon's grasp. The seals, who were fiercely defending their honor just moments before, suddenly deflated like punctured balloons, sitting on the ground in a daze, akin to wives suddenly receiving news of their husband's demise. Too ruthless, too vicious, the 4 siblings, a loving family, were completely annihilated by old demon Duan. Duan-Yun casually inhaled, flicked, and hung. For more bodies appeared on the city wall. Any more? He stood forward, forcing the crowd to step back. Unable to help himself, Duan-Yun remarked, all the martial artists of Fusang are useless. Not a single one capable of fighting, truly deserving of the label cowards of the human realm. In a highly mocking tone, Ziyu translated his words. This statement immediately provoked the Fusang martial artists. As Fusang people, they already considered themselves several tiers above the people of Jojo, and as the elite martial artists among them, they looked down even more upon the people of Jojo. Now, Duan-Yun, a man from Jojo, was practically shitting on their heads. It felt more unbearable and humiliating than having a pig sit on their heads. Baka! 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 Many of the Fusang martial artists, their chi blood surging, could not help but curse out in anger. In the moment they cursed, their chi blood surged, but they quickly chose to close their mouths, avoiding any provocation. Unfortunately, some realized it was already too late, because at that moment, Duan-Yun appeared before one of the Fusang martial artists. You cursed loudly just now. Duan-Yun raised his palm and slapped down with a resounding crack. With that slap, the samurai's body tilted, and he immediately kneeled to the ground. At a glance, you wouldn't even know whether he was slapped to his knees or kneeled on his own. In fact, it was the latter. The moment his chi blood surged, he couldn't hold back, but instantly regretted it as soon as he spoke. Because this demon really approached him. Out of all these people, he had merely blurted a curse, yet the opponent approached like a menacing ghost. How petty could this demon be? Fight back. Slap, slap, slap. 3 more slaps landed as the man's face swelled like a bun, utterly humiliated. Fight back. Fight back. Yet as Duan-Yun slapped one after another, asking the opponent to fight back, the warrior just knelt and bowed, continuously muttering, Sumimasen. In the next moment, Duan-Yun stretched out his hand, and the beaming divine skill erupted. In an instant, a violent suction pulled over a dozen more Fusang martial artists. These were all the ones who had angrily shouted Baka before, and while Duan-Yun was not petty, he remembered each word clearly. After these dozen Fusang martial artists were pulled over, they all, with fear in their eyes, instantly kneeled and bowed, collectively chanting Sumimasen, as if they were made from the same mold. Is this the tradition of Fusang? Young hero Duan could not care less about such things. As a young hero, he wouldn't adhere to these courtesies. If an apology sufficed, then what use would a young hero be? Slap, Slap! Slap! Duan Yun swung a slap, yet a dense sound of over 10 slaps echoed. It was as if he only delivered one slap, yet the slap's force integrated the electric sword feature, bouncing across the faces of over a dozen kneeling Fusang martial artists, creating the effect of one slap hitting more than 10 people. Fight back! Fight back! With each slap cruelly landing, the Fusang martial artists had their cheeks raised high, teeth shattered. Such a scene left the majority of onlookers tearing up, particularly the sea dogs who ground their teeth to fragments. Yet this group of Fusang martial artists, who moments ago had their chi blood surging with the spirit of the great warrior, took it all silently while continually bowing and offering their sumimasen. Even Duan Yun found this situation somewhat ridiculous. Fight back! As Duan Yun's slap fell, the first one slapped already collapsed, barely breathing, his survival uncertain. Yet Duan Yun's slaps did not stop, continuously lashing out with explosive sounds. His thought was that as long as someone dared to fight back, that person could live. At least it would show they possessed a hint of spirit. Yet, at this juncture, no one fought back. Each slap, like a whip, lashed across the hearts of all Fusang and mentally Fusang people present, a mark of absolute humiliation, the utmost insult to the Fusang martial arts, as if branding the title cowards of the human realm deep into their flesh and blood. Yet no one fought back. Not a single one. Duan Yun continued to grab and slap those who had previously yelled. Yet nothing changed. If you don't fight back, you die. His words had reached this point, essentially gifting them points, yet no one made a move. These Fusang martial artists he dragged over, regardless if they looked fierce or mild, only knew how to bow and murmur sumimasen. You cowards are truly disappointing. Yes, even he was numb from slapping. Numb in every sense. At this point, Duan Yun raised his palm once more and let it fall. This time, a thunderous explosion erupted. As this series of slaps ended, this group of people all fell into a pool of blood. Duan Yun had slapped more than 20 Fusang martial artists to death, and not one dared to fight back, not even with a single word. This could only mean these Fusang martial artists' cowardice surpassed his imagination. Or perhaps he overestimated their dignity and fury. Similarly, in truth, he also somewhat underestimated his own overbearing aura. He slaughtered his way here, especially reaching Biki City, where his reputation had already reached levels that would silence crying children. Today's ruthless extermination of the Ju family siblings pushed this dreadful degree to new heights. These people, upon seeing him, instinctively trembled. Some attempted to summon their samurai spirit, but only felt their inner spiritual warriors flee in fear, daring not to show an ounce of courage to confront. One might say, in their eyes, Duan Yun's terror was no less than the abyssal Ma Asan imagined before his death. Old Demon Duan hadn't been in Fusang for long, yet in the eyes of those who witnessed his brutal acts, his horror level had surpassed that of traditional figures of terror like Sadako or Kayako. These people were slapped to death, and for a moment no one even came to collect their bodies. Because Duan Yun's arrogance effectively dragged the entire Fusang martial world into humiliation. Countless Fusang people wished for his death. Yet, sadly, their approach was to curse him in their hearts, to doodle circles of curse. No, even such curses had to be cast from a distance, because they had also realized that this demon's pettiness was extraordinary. Those martial artists, slain before their eyes, were remembered bitterly simply for uttering baka. The local people of Fusang were exhausted. After the Ju family siblings' death, no one dared to challenge this wicked foreign demon for a while. Yet the sea dogs from Jojo were still stubbornly trying to make excuses. What do you mean slapped to death? Their facial skin and flesh rebounded old Demon Duan. That's all. Rebound. Don't you know that the force's action is mutual? Old Demon Duan is probably internally injured by now. That's right, heavily wounded. He's staying there, waiting to die. Listening to these sea dogs' words, even the bloodthirsty storyteller, who loved spreading rumors about old Demon Duan, blushed. You can make excuses like that? Truly, you live to learn. News of the Ju family siblings being slaughtered by Duan Yun quickly spread. Many immediately saw new hope. That was a sudden black cloud appearing outside Biki City. Indeed, the skies around were initially clear, but that black cloud appeared very abruptly. Many noticed that the cloud was moving towards Biki City. Soon some saw it was a growing number of Jew family members heading this way. Due to their overwhelming momentum, even the celestial phenomenon was influenced, forming such a cloud. In an instant, the Fusang people and the Sea Dog's eyes lit up. It's not scary that 4 Jew family members fell. 1,000 Jew family members will definitely rise up. No matter how ruthless old demon Duan is, can he wipe out the whole Jew family? What if old demon Duan really could kill them all? Do you believe that? I don't. Biki City. Black clouds pressed down on the city, creating a scene of oppressive pressure. But the terrifyingly oppressive black clouds stopped at the edge of the city, forming a standoff with Duan Yun on the city's wall. In the face of Duan Yun's provocation, God Ju has yet to make an appearance. Even though this is the greatest humiliation the Ju family has faced in decades. To some extent, it is even the worst foreign insult Fusang's martial arts world has faced in decades. Yes, although black people can roam Fusang, they are noble black people. Besides, black people would not easily provoke the Ju family or the entire Fusang martial arts world. Yet this lowly Jojo martial artist dares to urinate and defecate on their heads, and it hasn't been punished for all these days. It's quite unfathomable. When Duan Yun caused chaos in Fengwu City, Fusang's local martial artists believed it was a result of a shameless sneak attack, catching them off guard with their top warriors absent, just like their tribe prefers to sneak attack others' ports. And when Duan Yun reached Biki City and killed the Jew martial artist, it was also by disguising himself as a doctor for a sneak attack, shameless like a stinky rat sneaking around. Later, when Duan Yun declared war against Fusang's entire martial arts world, they thought it was just for show, a reckless bluff, sure to end quickly once the Jew family's experts arrived, surely leading him to have no whole body left. But as things progressed, their mindset began to shift, because they witnessed how this old demon killed the Jew family's 4 siblings. The Jew family's 4 siblings were all elite members, yet they were slaughtered by him just like that. In total, 7 members of the Jew family have died at his hands, 6 of whom were the useful children of the Jew family. Subsequently, he went on to slap dozens of Fusang martial artists to death, inviting them to retaliate, yet not a single Fusang martial artist dared to make a sound. At this moment, in the eyes of Fusang's martial artists, old demon Duan seemed like a wall, an exceedingly solid wall from Jojo. He stands before them, urinates and defecates above them, yet they are helpless. They finally recognized that this is not merely a farce. This demented demon from Jojo is capable of competing with Fusang's grandmasters. Declaring war on Fusang's martial arts world does not seem as foolish or suicidal. Everyone thought that after suffering a major loss, the Jew family would lay low for a while before going after old demon's life. Yet the Jew family's main force has arrived. Everyone knows God Jew has over 1,000 children, and purely in terms of blood relatives, they form the largest force within Fusang's martial arts world. All of the Jew family's children are extremely formidable, even those deemed useless sons, relying on their innate bloodline advantages, can often hold their own individually. Thus, apart from gatherings, it is rare to see them acting together. Yet at this moment, hundreds of Jew families' children have come together, forming an imposing presence, strong enough to alter the weather. To have such a large number of Jew family members coming together is no longer a mere free action by the children below. God Jew's influence is apparent. With the current upheaval, it would seem ignorant to suggest God Jew is detached, indifferent to such worldly matters. 2 days ago, God Jew issued an assembly order to his sons and daughters. In 2 days, around 300 blood relatives have rushed to Fusang. This not only demonstrates God Jew's absolute control over his children, but is also due to the fact that Fusang is not that large a place. In 2 days, it's been sufficient time for those receiving the assembly order to arrive swiftly. These arriving 300 children learned of the Jew family's elite 4 siblings' deaths, feeling mixed emotions. The Jew family has always overwhelmed others, gathering so ostentatiously and should be invincible officially, but now they face a tough opponent and potential risks. Yet risk also represents profit. From another perspective, they are undoubtedly fortunate. Because Father has ordered that attacking the old demon in full force and defeating him will make them strong competitors for the top 10 children. And the remaining brothers and sisters who haven't arrived will become stepping stones for them, with Father God Ju personally refining them into great medicine for these victorious sons and daughters to enjoy. What a lavish meal that will be. Many Ju family sons and daughters are practically drooling. But the prerequisite is that they must win. If they win, they shall feast fiercely. Will they win? They will win. Just because of the allure of great medicine, hundreds of children who initially competed with each other suddenly found a common belief. A belief in victory. At the same time, they are quite serious and prudent, as they know that Father is watching their performance from somewhere. Duan Yun stood on the crooked city wall he had caused, looking at the army below, wondering, why haven't they attacked yet? Ziyu sat beside him, saying, they are waiting for an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? The opportunity to kill you. Just waiting like this, will it give them the chance to kill me? In clashes between strong individuals, it's about testing who has greater patience. What nonsense! I'm not very patient. Does that mean I'm not strong? Duan Yun complained as he ate grilled meat. Though the grilled meat is tasty, it does induce heatiness. Upon finishing the last piece of meat, Duan Yun planned to take some action. Time to play, Duan Yun said. Night had already fallen, yet Biki City remained brightly lit. Not just inside the city, even the hills outside had people holding torches alight. Because no one knew when the battle would begin, and nobody wanted to miss this grand spectacle. In order to witness old demon Duan's violent demise, many people have stayed up for 2 nights, their eyes bloodshot, yet still persisting to watch. Meanwhile, a monk is holding a woman, groping around while staring intently. When others asked why the monk was groping, he replied that groping was to refresh himself, and refreshing himself was to watch old demon Duan. As long as he watched old demon Duan would feel pressure. If he suddenly died, he would have contributed. As he spoke, he groped more vigorously and watched more intently. Playing? Now? Ziyu asked in surprise. Yes. After eating, if you don't digest, you'll gain weight. Duan Yun said earnestly. You're right. We should have a good play. Kill them, then play again in high spirits. Ziyu said. We play. Yes, play with you or play with me, either is fine. Ziyu replied. Duan Yun looked at Ziyu and said, Green Jade, can you bring your sister back? Why, calling someone little sweetheart, when hiding in the cellar with them before, but now only thinking about your sister. Green Jade complained. Little sweetheart? Are you dreaming? Let's go, little sweetheart. It's time to get moving. As he spoke, Duan Yun had already stood up. Green Jade followed suit and stood up. The night had come. As the elder sister, it was time to find a chance to act. This moving around involved fighting, using a sword, getting physically active, and also stirring emotions. Oh, my foolish sister, being alone with old demon Duan for so long, yet not making any progress, only leaving it to the elder sister to sacrifice herself to assist her. As the elder sister, Green Jade considered herself more clear-minded. She knew this was a rare opportunity. Once back at Yuzhu Manor, surrounded by those vicious women, it would be hard to accomplish anything. Duan Yun and Green Jade stood up together, instantly energizing the crowd. Now, every move from these two seemed to affect everyone's nerves. To their disappointment, Duan Yun and Green Jade just stretched lazily, looking as if they were going to sleep. People eat after getting full, sleeping is only natural. So many people from the Ju family came, such a grand scale, old demon Duan indeed had no reason to attack proactively. If it were me, I wouldn't go either. Yet, the next moment, someone cried out in astonishment. Because Duan Yun, who was lazily stretching just now, had already disappeared from the city wall. Where is he? Where did he go? The person is gone. Without any hesitation, several seals barked with all their might, warning the people of the Ju family. The Ju family reacted very quickly, or perhaps they didn't need to react, because they weren't resting or recuperating. The clouds in the sky gathered, and so did their spirits. The bloodline of the Jew family played a key role at this moment, because on the way here, the siblings had already drunk each other's blood. That's breaking a finger, sucking a mouthful from one another, thus achieving this magical bloodline connection. With this connection, their mental thoughts would gather together, forming this surging battle cloud. God Ju had always reigned supreme in Fusang, with ambitions to enslave Jojo, all believing in the bloodline of the heavenly god. With such a bloodline, his offspring would be the strongest army in the world. And he had long planned that once the enslavement plan unfolded, he would sow all the way, given the population of Jojo, he would have an endlessly growing and terrifyingly powerful army. At this moment, the army of 300 sons would take old Demon Duan for a practice run. Duan Yun arrived quickly, his movements ghost-like. The place where the 300 of the Jew family were located was by a bamboo grove on the outskirts of the city, and he approached the right side of the team almost silently. Taking advantage of the night, he planned to act as an assassin, kill to his heart's content. Yet, as an assassin, just as he approached the first son of the Jew family, a clap of thunder was heard. The clouds overhead emitted a sound, as if warning. That son seemed to have eyes on his back. In response to Duan Yun's sword chi slash, he instinctively lunged forward. This lunge was well-timed, just enough to dodge that tricky sword chi. Because his surrounding siblings could help him perceive, he was like having several pairs of eyes. This is the strength of the Jew family. But the next moment, his body froze, his face pale as paper. Even if he had several pairs of eyes, he was still struck. Damn it! Whose honest sword chi could suddenly veer offline. Yes, if the sword chi finger from Duan Yun started as a straight line, it now became a hook. That hook struck right at his navel. In an instant, the navel shattered, blood splattered. Yet, despite this, he still stood up, even charged at Duan Yun fearlessly. Because at this moment, he was sandwiched by two brothers, used as a meat shield. He had no choice but to charge. Ah! Charging alongside him were not just the two brothers beside him, but also two hidden behind him. They used bone shrinking skills, clinging to the back of the meat shield brother, completely invisible. This moment, for people united in mind, attacking Duan Yun. Why were there only 4 united minds among the 5? Because the meat shield was unwilling. He knew he was going to die. Facing the charging meat shield, Duan Yun flicked his 10 fingers in succession. The meat shield's figure, driven by the brothers, nearly turned into a sieve. Yet his sacrifice was worthwhile, because this gave the other 4 the opportunity to launch a true killing blow. 2 large swords simultaneously unsheathed from either side, slashing at Duan Yun like thunder. Duan Yun's shoulders trembled, releasing 2 sword chi beams to collide with the large swords. In this clash, he found the sword edge unusually heavy, unlike what people at this level should be able to strike. As a result, the breaking body sword energy didn't instantly shatter these 2 large swords, and what's next was the true killing strike from the Jew family. At this moment, the 2 individuals who had been hidden behind the meat shield moved. Their sword pierced through their own brother's body, darting towards Duan Yun like arrows. And their saber was not an ordinary large sword, but rather like a snake-shaped weapon. Such a weapon was peculiar. Once inside the enemy's body, the enemy would die quickly. Because it was both a sword and a hook, the sword enters the body, and the hook can sever intestines. The meat shield didn't want to connect with others mentally because he had foreseen the outcome. These numerous holes on his body weren't enough to be fatal, but these through-body swords, one drilling out from the chest, the other from the right kidney, were life-threatening. He would die prematurely at the hands of his own brothers. All brothers and sisters of the Jew family sensed the passing of this life. Meat shield disconnects. It must be said, these 2 swords were indeed insidious, akin to the method of the sect leader of Thunder God and Mother sect training their body into a weapon, able to extrude weapons all over. Duan Yun's breaking body sword energy surged out, forming a pervasive black sword mist. The curved sword, meeting the black sword missed, suddenly slowed down, even swaying back and forth. But the curved sword continued to advance, nearly touching Duan Yun's clothes when he clamped it between his fingers. The force of this curved sword, like the two large swords, exceeded his expectations. In this moment, Duan Yun figured it out. Unknowingly, he was encircled by the Zhu family, situated within their array. Human field. The term inevitably popped into Duan Yun's mind. Because the Thunder God and Mother had an electrical field, and he had a sword field, both were areas formed after martial arts reached a certain level. And at this moment, the sons and daughters of the Zhu family surrounding him gave him this field feeling. Yes, it's way more formidable than the likes of Men Can't See from the White Sox sect. Almost simultaneously, back atop the city wall where Duan Yun had roasted meat earlier, another person appeared. This person had a sword across his back, a middle-part hairstyle, with a warrior robe wrapped with something resembling a sling. He sat where Duan Yun sat before, also roasting meat leisurely. From behind, except for the rather tight crisscross sling, he seemed no different from an ordinary Fusang martial artist. Yet sitting there effortlessly, he exuded an invincible aura. Heavenly God was indeed invincible. God Zhu took a bite of the medium-rare beef while watching Duan Yun fighting against his sons below. His expression remained indifferent. Just a toy to him. In fact, from the very beginning when they stopped at the outskirts of the city and chose to confront Duan Yun, it was all pre-planned by the Zhu family. As Ziyu said, they were not flustered. The Zhu family had already quietly formed their array. Once Duan Yun broke in, it would be activated, and then it would be like catching a turtle in a jar. And now, the turtle has arrived. But the crowd soon realized this turtle was swimming like Yulong inside it. They saw the Zhu family members now with their essence reaching their heads, and the pervasive true qi formed smoke columns, converging upwards. In the blink of an eye, these Zhu family members began to punch. They began to punch simultaneously, or rather, dance. That kind of abstract punching, that kind of abstract dancing. It's like someone who doesn't know martial arts desperately trying to showcase their world-class talent. Like a clumsy person who can't dance but insists on imagining themselves as a graceful swan. Also dancing along with them were their swords. These people's swords were all pink, just varying shades of pink. At this moment, all the sword light was also in chaotic dance. Even though Duan Yun's eyes were quick and hands were fast, he couldn't fully predict their trajectories at the time, because it was too abstract. These abstract dances and sword light connected into one, appearing as a pink ocean in everyone's eyes. Even compared to the pinkest cherry blossom forest of Fusang, it wasn't this pink. Compared to her sister Ziyu, Green Jade's sword attack was more vicious, more direct, and more efficient at killing. At this point, the light of the moon-shielding light-shaming sword was illuminating the surrounding Zhu family members. But at this moment, these Zhu family members were hardly affected. Because they were inherently shameless, with no sense of shame, so there was no shame to be felt. Moreover, with this group of shameless family members together, there was even less sense of shame. Now their human array was formed. Green Jade initially wanted to go in for the kill, but in the end could only choose to break through. And what about Duan Yun at the center of the human array? The cold pink sword rain was striking him, but his figure had become fast like lightning. The entire person was swimming like Yulong within the human array, weaving through gaps between the sword edges. He inclined his body, causing a burst of wind to form a wind tunnel. Two sword edges slashed close to his body, and in the next instant, he arrived behind a Zhu family member. The Zhu family member had sensed him through the array, wanting to evade, but simply couldn't. Too fast. His physical reflexes simply couldn't keep up with the speed. This time, Duan Yun drew both swords, thrusting them straight into the opponent's back and then withdrawing. With a crunching sound, blood scattered like a rainstorm, dispersing the incoming sword light, and this Zhu family member's body split into two halves. After one successful attack, Duan Yun's figure transformed into a residual shadow again. Immediately, the shrill screams rang out one after another. Duan Yun utilized the same method, each time slicing into the opponent's back, inserting both swords, tearing them into halves, efficiently and lethally. Despite this, the Ju family sons and daughters not only didn't panic, but became even more invigorated in battle. Duan Yun could even feel the pressure increasing, not just because the human array was shrinking in on him, but also because it was better defended than before. It's not only because the formation was shrinking. Their dance became more abstract, the swords faster, and after Duan Yun's kills, these Ju family sons and daughters picked up the severed body halves of their siblings as shields. Due to the strong Ju family bloodline, some halves had yet to die on the spot, and thus continued to fight alongside their siblings. The sea lions were moved to tears when they saw, exclaiming, "See, this is what never giving up means, fighting till the end. Even in death, the corpses fight with siblings till the end. What great family love is this? Truly warms the corpse's heart. Lord Ju, such genuine temperament." Seeing this, Duan Yun, whenever encountering a Ju family member whom he could kill, didn't just slash into 2 anymore but dismembered into 8 pieces. But the peculiarity of the Ju family's array lay in the fact that even if the corpses were dismembered into 8 pieces, as long as they remained within the array, the formation could manipulate them to continue dancing and attacking as meat chunks. For a moment, Duan Yun felt as if hundreds or thousands of people were attacking him, and as he killed more and dismembered more, the attacking numbers kept increasing. Endless electric sword. Lightning sword chi spilled from the Huangshan golden sword, which already showed signs of damage, and rapidly bounced around within the Ju family's array. Under this bounce, Duan Yun felt a headache. The Ju family members had formed an array to jointly shoulder the damage to some extent, so the electric sword couldn't take their lives. Instead, they trembled even more from being electrified. Thus, whether it was the dance or the wielding sword edges, they became even more abstract. 10-layered spring rain. Duan Yun swept with the gentle knife, and the sword chi represented by painful red lines wildly shot out, directly piercing through the bodies of the surrounding Ju family members. A sudden piercing scream erupted. The affected Ju family members felt unprecedented pain, losing control and rolling into a mass while defecating. But soon, someone shouted, "Sibling-linked boats!" Swish, 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 swish. A dense sound of severing the air arose, with golden threads emerging from the Ju family members' bodies. These threads pierced into the nearby siblings' bodies, quickly interconnecting the Ju family members. There is an ancient saying in Jiuzhou that goes, "When brothers are united, their power cuts gold." And the Ju family directly linked their bloodline relatives together, sharing the damage. In fact, this golden thread intertwining technique of the Ju family was inspired by a story from Jiuzhou. At that time, the two armies clashed, and one side's troops were not skilled in water warfare. The soldiers on the ships easily became seasick. Thus, the army strategist suggested connecting all the ships with iron chains. Once connected, sure enough, the soldiers felt as if they were walking on solid ground, and the general no longer worried about them getting seasick. At this moment, through the gold lines connected, Duan Yun's agonizing sword chi was immediately shared. The Ju family members all shouted in pain, yet they could still control their bodies, continuing to swing their blades abstractly. What fun! What fun! Duan Yun leaped up, and the 10-layered spring rain sword chi continued to soar. Since you love sharing pain so much, I'll make sure you enjoy it. This time, Duan Yun was clearly furious. True chi surged wildly as he unleashed sword chi that could torment half the city. Yes, dealing with such small fry, he originally didn't want to use the 10-layered spring rain. But their array indeed caused him trouble, so he decided to strike hard. The 300 Ju family members, who initially screamed just from several strands of agonizing sword chi, now were hit by sword chi representing absolute pain, falling like a torrential downpour. Ah! Ah! Yamei! Yamai di! This time, their cries of agony were heart-wrenching, especially the screams of the daughters of the Ju family, reminiscent of certain Fusang women during particular activities. The seals who had previously suffered from this sword chi suddenly shed tears. Watching Lord Hai suffer was even more heartbreaking for them than suffering themselves. They wished to endure the torture on their behalf. No. Please no. Old demon Duan, if you dare, come for us. As soon as he spoke, several red lines sliced through the air, piercing into his and a few nearby seals' bodies. Ah! Ah! No! It's a mistake. It's a mistake. Young hero, just kidding. Give it back to them. The seals found that although they wanted to help bear the pain, their bodies could not, so they begged for mercy. Unfortunately, young hero Duan was not big-hearted, and they had to suffer along with the Jew family. Seeing the seals fall and struggle, the surrounding onlookers, especially the Fusang people, shouted, "Retreat quickly, it's dangerous." Quack! The pain surged so violently that the Jew family's movements became completely distorted, creating large gaps. Duan Yun had already slipped into these gaps, initiating a massacre. Sword light danced, slicing into the bodies of the Jew family, easily tearing them apart like a hot knife through butter. The formation was now on the verge of collapse. Duan Yun's efficiency was extremely high, killing rapidly. He had previously killed only about 20 people during such a long time, but in this short period, he had already slain nearly 100. The Jew family had many sons and daughters, and this time brought 300 to 400 of them. But at this pace of slaughter, soon they'd be extinct. The situation on the field had reversed entirely, yet God Jew remained seated, looking calm. Kill, let him kill. In his eyes, those being killed seemed not like his children, but rather strangers. Hand up, sword down. Hand up, sword down. Duan Yun continuously raised his hand, killing, raised his hand, killing, not even blinking. Or rather, when he annihilates families, he doesn't have the habit of blinking. When his blade had killed more than 150 of the Jew family's sons and daughters, God Jew finally stood up. He walked towards the bottom of the city wall. Although he clearly took only one step, he was already 2 zhang away, as if space under his feet was measured by different scales. Someone had noticed him earlier. Or rather, someone godlike behaving so ordinary, it would be hard not to notice. But at this moment, almost everyone was drawn by the scene of Duan Yun slaughtering the Jew family members, and many were grinding their teeth. The Jew family were considered the elite among Fusang people, claiming to have the blood of a heavenly god, a view shared by the masses, who worshipped them as gods, kneeling to kiss their feet, kneeling to offer daughters. Such were Fusang people's daily ways to please them. Yet at this moment, those who bore Fusang's infinite expectations were being slaughtered like pigs and dogs by someone from Zhou. Does justice still exist? Does law still exist? Has the world gone mad? When Duan Yun's blade had nearly slain half of the Jew family's sons and daughters, God Jew had reached the edge of the array. He tugged at the tight strap on his back, and suddenly, the clouds in the sky changed. The cloud formed by the aura of the Jew family's sons and daughters had already been defeated by Duan Yun, leaving it only half intact. Yet in this instant, everything changed. The dark clouds in the sky swirled, winds surged, forming a vortex that rotated around an empty center. At this moment, Duan Yun also felt an instinct and looked up to the sky. The next instant, a gigantic human face outline emerged from the vortex, overlooking everything below like a heavenly god. Everyone who saw this scene couldn't help but feel awe, sensing their insignificance, as if truly seen by a heavenly god. Finally, someone reacted and shouted, "God! God Jew! God Jew has come!" The Jew family's sons and daughters, who had been rolling around unable to help themselves, sparkled in their eyes when they saw this scene. "Father! It's Father! Father! Heavenly God descends! We're saved!" Duan Yun glanced at the virtual face overhead and continued focusing on killing. He knew that the big guy had finally arrived. This move, which could alter the heavens and condense celestial phenomena into a human face through inner energy, was quite remarkable, but it didn't hinder him from cutting down his opponent. Bang! God Jew tugged at the strap on his samurai outfit, and instantly, a sound like heavenly thunder rumbled. The sound was loud, even more deafening than genuine thunder, unsettling anyone's state of mind. The next moment, Duan Yun's ears twitched, and his figure abruptly swayed to the side. With a swish, the daughter of the Zhu family who stood in front of him split into two. The blood spurting out was immediately crushed into a blood mist, soaking Duan Yun's form. This was force, the purest kind of force. It attacked in an extremely insidious manner, and if Duan Yun hadn't dodged quickly, he might have been hit. This level of force, even if he took it head-on, would injure him. Only God Zhu could unleash such force. Duan Yun retreated a few steps and saw that figure. A figure that wasn't particularly tall, impressive, or handsome, yet resembled a heavenly god. Or rather, a heavenly god was a kind of aura. If a person compared themselves to a god, believed it themselves, and convinced more people, it was hard to say they weren't a god. And the samurai before him, wrapped in straps, was precisely this kind of person. Extreme confidence and indifference gave him a persona utterly distinct from martial arts grandmasters. Duan Yun looked at him, and he was also looking at Duan Yun. The next moment, God Zhu moved again. He twisted his hips, leaned forward, and plucked his straps once more. An invisible force suddenly surged, and Duan Yun's figure swayed once again. This time, the terrifying force grazed past him. No, it even brushed against his body. Even though he quickly summoned breaking body sword energy to protect himself, the sword chi was still shattered, and the force tore through Duan Yun's right shoulder garment, spinning him around before he could stabilize. Afterwards, Duan Yun didn't stop, his form flitting about like a fleeting shadow, because God Zhu hadn't stopped either. He stood still in place, twisting his hips, rocking his shoulders, constantly playing with his straps. At a glance, he seemed to be performing a smooth dance, each tug of the strap making his parted hair flutter. This scene appeared elegant and poetic, as if he was performing a solo dance, indifferent to the worldly battles. Yet every sway, every tug of the strap, unleashed earth-shattering power. Most of this power was dodged by Duan Yun, crashing into the bamboo and mountain in the background. In an instant, mountains shattered, bamboo turned to dust, and a group of onlookers standing there were blasted into the sky, leaving no trace behind. Duan Yun hadn't expected God Zhu's weapon to be these straps. Straps that seemed ordinary, yet became the world's most lethal weapon. At this moment, everyone's eyes lit up. The Fusang people were still in pain, unable to resist praising again, but were immediately silenced by their companions furiously covering their mouths. For the Fusang people noticed these few were jinxes. Every time they praised a favorable situation, it would promptly deteriorate, so they forcefully interrupted them. And the Fusang people discovered this method might actually work. Because now, the Jiuzhou old demon was genuinely at a disadvantage. Everyone could see that in a duel at this level, once one side was at a disadvantage, it was exceedingly difficult to reverse the situation. The movements of God Zhu's hands were getting faster, with the shoulder strap snapping loudly. Meanwhile, Duan Yun was dodging faster and faster, becoming increasingly haggard. Occasionally, he unleashed the 8-layered spring rain blade energy, trying to find an opening for counterattack, but in an instant it turned into evasion and defense. The power of God Zhu was immense, with full penetrative force. Even if Duan Yun resisted, only the 8-layered spring rain could counter it, but the key was he was fast. Duan Yun needed a brief moment to gather strength to unleash the 8-layered spring rain, but it seemed God Zhu needed no such preparation. A twist of the body, a snap of the shoulder strap was enough. The key was this energy was nearly invisible, and its trajectory was extremely unpredictable. Many times, Duan Yun only reacted to defend hastily when the energy was about to strike him. So, in the eyes of the crowd, Duan Yun was dodging and retreating repeatedly. Duan Yun's heart was also burning with anger. For all this time, even when facing opponents like Thunder God and Mother, he had never been suppressed to the extent where it was extremely difficult to fight back. Yet now, he found himself in such a state. The same kind of move, his gathering speed was slower than the opponent's. This slowness meant he was being gradually oppressed into a passive position. Unless, in just an instant, the breaking body sword energy surged crazily from within Duan Yun, forming a dense sword mist. But his hands did not stop, as the blade hummed, and he slashed out. This slash was not for defense but for offense. With a bang, Duan Yun's body was blown backward, his clothes torn apart. In order to seize the attack, he forcibly took this blow. His clothes burst open, and the terrifying force, despite being mostly offset by the erupting breaking body sword energy, still drilled into his flesh and wreaked havoc. When Duan Yun stabilized himself, there were already numerous blood beads on his abdomen. At this point, even the Fusang people, who had been holding their breath and covering their mouths, afraid that any praise would reverse the situation, couldn't help but shout, "Powerful and great," because it was their first time seeing this demon from Jojo get injured, and seriously injured at that. They were already aware of the power of the heavenly power unleashed by God Ju, as evidenced by the shattered bamboo forest and collapsed mountain terrain. For Duan Yun to forcibly withstand such a move, he would either be dead or crippled. Even if he's not dead now, taking a few more like that and his life would be forfeit. The situation had never been so favorable. Even they couldn't contain themselves, because they saw no possibility of Duan Yun making a comeback. Whenever God Ju made a move, it was absolute suppression. At this point, having paid the price of getting injured, Duan Yun's unleashed spring rain blade energy had already crossed the space between them, attacking God Ju. Compared to Duan Yun's strategy of exchanging injury for a strike, God Ju was much more composed. He snapped his strap again, releasing another wave of energy that directly collided with the spring rain blade power. With a rumbling explosion, waves of energy rolled and spread out. The crowd at the forefront was knocked to the ground. Some had their wigs blown away, others had skirts flipped onto their heads, struggling to pull them down, exposing their forms. God Ju retreated 3 steps in succession, his eyebrows slightly raised. This was presumably the first time Duan Yun fought back. He thought he had prepared thoroughly and could easily suppress it, yet he found he had underestimated this force. This blade energy carried multiple layers of rotating force, causing him to step back several times. But alas, that was all it was. God Ju stood forward, his shoulders shaking as he began snapping the strap with both hands. Duan Yun initially seized the opportunity for a counterattack by exchanging injury, but moments later, he was back in a defensive posture. It wasn't the opponent's ultimate speed just now. This guy could even snap with both hands. Standing there, God Ju's shoulders moved rhythmically, up and down, accompanied by the snapping of the strap, like a mighty cannon on earth, relentlessly bombarding Duan Yun. Duan Yun was puzzled. Logically, with such continuous and relentless attacks, the opponent should have tired or needed to catch his breath. But the opponent seemed to have infinite firepower, with no intention of stopping. Something like infinite spring rain blade energy assaults. Even he couldn't manage it. Could the opponent's inner strength be far superior?
Impossible. Absolutely impossible.
If it was when he first emerged, Duan Yun acknowledged his power was not as robust as the top experts. But now, having been emerged for more than 2.5 years, experiencing countless significant breakthroughs, and having absorbed significant inner strength with the Biming divine skill, it could be said he was far ahead of his peers in the martial world. Even without extraordinary wisdom, he knew this was impossible. Even Ming Xing from Mingyu Palace couldn't completely overpower him with inner strength. At this moment, Duan Yun's eyes sharpened, and his extraordinary wisdom was already in operation, analyzing everything. There must be an issue. With a bang, Duan Yun crossed his dual blades in front of him. Yet still, part of the opponent's energy penetrated through, shredding his sleeves and tearing his skin apart. By this time, the Fusang people had stopped covering their mouths, waving their arms and shouting, "Powerful! Invincible!" The repressed supporters had fully entered a frenzied mode. God Ju descended, invincible under heaven. No, invincible in the heavens too. Lord God Ju is truly the first class on earth. I represent all people from Jojo in respecting you. At this moment, witnessing Duan Yun in danger, even the group of Jojo men who usually opposed the supporters of God Ju forgot to retort, because all their attention was on the battlefield, sweating for Duan Yun. Can young hero Duan hold on? Can the young hero Duan hold on? While continuously using his movement technique, hurriedly avoiding, Duan Yun suddenly sensed a detail. It was the corpses on the ground. Logically, the range he maneuvered was quite large, yet there were always corpses of the Zhu family members around him. Or rather, his head was continuously shrouded by a mass of dark clouds. This guy has been keeping him trapped among these corpses? Logically, these Zhu family members were already dead, unable to abstract out a blade, so why does he keep them trapped inside? An inspiration flashed in Duan Yun's mind. He also had a fondness for heaps of corpses, and that was death energy. When the corpses piled up and were very fresh, he could continuously absorb death energy, enhancing his sword chi. And God Zhu was also doing this. Was he also absorbing death energy? No. Duan Yun quickly denied this possibility. If it were death energy, he would have sensed it long ago. No one understands death energy better than he does. With a clang, Duan Yun raised his right arm, sweeping his famous blade forward, clashing with a sudden burst of force. He could distinctly feel that this force was likely just released from God Zhu's bouncing strap, but its trajectory was challenging to completely grasp. In his perception, this force seemed to leap around. Leaping? Springboard? Duan Yun's extraordinary wisdom sparked, and insight flashed in his mind. Suddenly understood. This guy was indeed using these corpses. These corpses were the springboards for his force to leap. No, not just simple springboards, but also amplifying his force. Just like his death chi breaking body sword energy, absorbing death energy can enhance the power of sword chi. The opponent likely absorbed something from these corpses, increasing his force. This was also key to why he could launch rapid attacks with seemingly infinite firepower like a turret. Because when his force just left the body, it wasn't that powerful. Yet he utilized these corpses, making the force's trajectory elusive and expanding it. In fact, Duan Yun's guess was quite close to the truth. God Zhu wasn't absorbing the death energy of these children, but the blood energy of the same origin. In other words, Duan Yun had been within his blood formation continuously. Within the blood formation, he possessed the nearly insane ability to invoke the heavenly god's blood force. This was why he previously watched as children were killed, unmoved, but rather with interest. Because only when enough children were dead could the blood formation be fully formed. This was why he intervened at that time. Once God Zhu intervened, he was bound to win. The fact that Duan Yun could persevere within his blood formation until now was unexpected for him. The opponent was much more formidable than anticipated, yet he hadn't completely fallen. If it was a true one-on-one duel, his odds of winning might only be 70 to 80%. But God Zhu, a heavenly godlike figure, facing any human, had only one certainty for victory, and that was 10%. Duan Yun saw through the opponent's strategy, so he hesitated no more, retreating while avoiding attacks, trying to leave the pile of corpses. But God Zhu gave him no chance. Several blasts of heavenly god's blood energy leapt through corpses, attacking from behind, forcing him back. He could feel God Zhu's patience was waning, or rather, his killing intent was increasingly strong, trying to force him into the core for direct execution. Damn it! Acting as a target for so long, Duan Yun was sick of it. If you're going to extract something from these corpses, then I won't waste it either. Let me absorb. Silently, Duan Yun bore the fierce artillery, beginning to absorb the death energy. During this process, he had a sensation of being on a war-torn battlefield, with bombs everywhere and bombers all around. The opponent's firepower was indeed ferocious, but he even possessing his unique barrier. Admittedly, perhaps due to the Zhu family's bloodline, the quality of death energy here was unprecedentedly good. One could match 10 others, no, even dozens. Rich death energy gathered towards Duan Yun, as if plunging into the netherworld, yet feeling immensely satisfying. He should have sensed it earlier. The flavor of these people's death energy was truly remarkable. The same principle applied to God Zhu. His blood formation technique could actually work on others, like the spectators of Biki City. After killing them, their blood energy could be utilized. But sadly, the quality was insufficient. Only his bloodline could produce such powerful blood energy for him to use so efficiently. He gave birth to so many children, granting them talent and fame, precisely for this moment. Time to end this farce. The moment had come. Gaju had forced Duan Yun to the center of the blood formation. Honestly, with continuous bouncing straps, both of his shoulders were somewhat numb, so he was about to unleash the most lethal strike. Coincidentally, the opponent also provided him a perfect opportunity. With a loud bang, Duan Yun was once again hit. His figure rolled chaotically on the ground. Yet just as God Ju tightened his grip on the strap, ready to unleash Heavenly God's blood bullet 9 layers of heaven, to end the battle, a column of black smoke soared into the sky. Netherworld Death Chi breaking body sword Chi. Complete form. With a boom, Duan Yun, who was originally lying on the ground, suddenly had a sword pillar constructed out of death energy soaring into the sky, lifting him up. At this moment, Duan Yun was filled entirely with death energy, hair wildly fluttering, his entire being levitating upwards. Such a deathly aura, seemingly capable of devouring all life. The newly departed life could bring the force to devour fresh life. Such a phenomenon itself was intriguing. God Ju did not expect this transformation, nor did anyone here.
Impossible?
Again, the Fusang people lunged forward, once more covering the mouths of the sea dogs like slaughtering pigs. Regrettably, the transformation had already formed. God Ju hesitated not, his hands bouncing into virtual images on the strap. Heavenly God's blood bullet 9 layers of heaven. This time, God Ju did not bounce lightly. As with each bounce, when the strap struck his fair skin, he let out a soft hum. Due to the speed, force, and enduring nature of the Heavenly God's blood bullet 9 layers of heaven, even he suffered a certain amount of backlash. Under his samurai clothing, his fair-skinned body bore numerous marks, as if whipped fiercely. Due to the immense power, the previously quiet corpses serving as springboards, this time all leapt up. In everyone's eyes, these corpses' flesh chunks danced as though performing a resurrected dance. Frightening force attacked Duan Yun from all sides, but at this moment, Duan Yun expanded his arms outward, roaring, "Jade Sword Immortal, complete form, come out!" With a boom, the death energy that continually filled his body began rapidly changing. Black skirts fluttered, ink-like strands of hair swaying. Surrounded death chi breaking body sword chi transformed into wings, completely enveloping Duan Yun. Rumbling, like thunder, terrifying force smashed onto the black wings of the Jade Sword Immortal. Shockwaves rolled like thunder, causing the foremost spectators to bleed from their 7 orifices. A massive pit appeared on the ground, the black wings shattered, fragments flying randomly, yet they were not completely destroyed. If the blood energy of these deceased Ju family members served as God Ju's spear, then their death energy became Duan Yun's shield. Is the spear sharper, or the shield more robust? Is still hard to declare victory. With a swish, the shattered black wings unfurled. Duan Yun soared into the air along with the Dharma image of the Netherworld Jade Sword Immortal, as if gods descended. No, if they were gods, they would be Netherworld gods, gods of ominousness. In the world of darkness, something darker than dark appeared. The moment the shattered wings of the Netherworld Jade Sword Immortal unfurled, they transformed into countless pitch-black Dharma swords, swirling behind her. The black silk patterns on her legs continuously changed, dreamlike and magical. Duan Yun sat within the Dharma image, as if inside a mecha, eyes as cold and quiet. At this moment, his mind was one with the complete form of Little Yu, engaged in an unprecedented divine encounter. God Ju, prepare to die. Duan Yun pointed forward with his right hand, and the complete Jade Sword Immortal also followed up with the Jade Sword finger. Then, the swirling black swords behind her transformed into black streaks of light, striking towards God Ju. For a time, the air was filled with wind movements, forming black torrents where the swords passed. The spectators were wide-eyed. Controlling such dark, hellish swords, old demon Duan, Do you still claim not to be the demonic inferno? God Ju's figure shifted, dodging the swords with dance-like steps while continuing to pluck the strings of his strap. The pitch-black swords collided with the invisible blood force of the heavenly god, causing explosions in the air and shaking the earth, splitting the previously flat suburban land into countless cracks like spider webs. At this moment, the bloodthirsty storyteller, who had been concealing himself among the Jiuzhou audience, finally realized it and shouted, "Death energy! Old Demon Duan is using the death energy from corpses." From the battle at the graveyard, the bloodthirsty storyteller has been at the forefront of spreading rumors and slandering Duan Yun, and their research on Duan Yun is also the most in-depth. So at this time, this bloodthirsty storyteller saw the secret and unhesitatingly revealed the secret behind Duan Yun's Dharma image, suddenly becoming powerful enough to counterattack God Ju. Only if God Ju knows the secret can he better kill old Demon Duan. Anyway, this surely seemed like the most hopeful time. God Ju appeared truly stronger than the heavenly gods. At this moment, someone from the Fusang side also spoke. "This is not a match. God Ju has also been using the qi and blood of his deceased children." The bloodthirsty storyteller was shocked and couldn't help looking over. The other person also looked at him. Their gazes met for a moment, and they unexpectedly felt like peers. The peer should be a local storyteller from Fusang, yet he could speak in broken Jiuzhou language. Just after revealing Duan Yun's background, the other dared to unveil God Ju's secrets. As a Fusang storyteller, how dare you expose the background of the Fusang God Ju? Don't you have any shame? How are you fit to be a Fusang person? The bloodthirsty storyteller, already outraged, didn't care about the fact that he was from Jiuzhou, and Duan Yun was also from Jiuzhou. Actually, God Ju has a similar situation to Duan Yun. That is, his rampant arrogance naturally earned him many enemies in Fusang, who usually didn't dare to provoke him or his children, at most making a few sarcastic remarks. And now, finally, someone dared to challenge him, so how could there be no support? Anyway, this seems the most hopeful time to drag God Ju down. They wouldn't care about those. The bloodthirsty storyteller couldn't help but curse that Fusang storyteller as a Fusang traitor, while the Fusang storyteller called the bloodthirsty storyteller a Jiuzhou traitor. At this moment, the spectators continued to play along. What? Death energy. Old Demon Duan, you're so shameless. Using the aura of the dead to harm people. Such shameless people exist in this world. This will bring divine retribution. Upon hearing that God Ju was also using the blood energy of his deceased children, they couldn't help but continue. What? God Ju is using the blood energy of his deceased children. Even though his children have died, he still fights with them, slaying demons together. God Ju, you are truly gentle, moved to tears, simply the gentlest person in the world. After hearing the words of the spectators, the two arguing storytellers were momentarily stunned. No, is there really such a bizarre double-standard perspective? This wasn't the first time Duan Yun activated Little Yu. In fact, he had done so many times. But this time the feeling was unprecedentedly good. He could feel that Little Yu was alive, enveloping him as if they were tightly embracing. The real feeling of the opponent's icy skin and jade-like bones. Even the silky touch of the silk stockings was exceptionally clear. They were in spiritual communion, their minds uniting, as if trembling together at a higher level. It was quite thrilling. Duan Yun manipulated the Dharma image like a true sword immortal war god, aiming to slaughter the Fusang demon in front of him, though others saw him controlling the eerie and ominous death energy, resembling a netherworld demon emerging. Duan the young hero considered himself a sword immortal war god, thus a holy sword immortal war god. God Ju hadn't expected his lethal move not only failed to kill the opponent, but also led to a counterattack. Within the blood array, he could continuously exhibit the blood force of the heavenly god. Yet at this time, the law sword formed by the opponent's Dharma image could also be continuously wielded. By now, his children were yelling to remind him, "Father, he's using death energy, the aura of the dead." Yes, when the bloodthirsty storyteller revealed the truth, though there were also those here who hated God Ju, they were far outnumbered and outmatched by those hating Duan Yun, so at this time, There were people everywhere reminding him. Death energy? He can actually wield the breath of the dead just like me. But darn it, these are my children. God Ju suddenly felt aggrieved. My children, why are you using them too? Clang, 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 clang. God Ju launched a barrage of heavenly god blood force bursts, humming a string of soft notes. All of a sudden, the battle between the two parties had reached a fever pitch, and the exploitation of the energy within corpses reached its most intense moment too. One needed blood energy, the other needed death energy, seemingly without conflict. You take yours, I take mine, like a plaything where you play your favorite part and I play mine without interference. Humans are inseparable, the same plaything. When the game gets heated, it's inevitable to clash. Flesh contains blood energy and also produces death energy as it dies. At this moment, as both sides fought over them, the corpses all began to respond. Many corpses suddenly stood up and started walking. But their movements were bizarre, as if their limbs weren't their own, each moving in its own direction. Clearly the left leg was stepping forward, but the right leg lifted toward the back of the head, instantly forming a split swan dance posture, while both hands moved left and right like rotating drums. It was the reaction of flesh as blood energy and death energy continuously surged from the body, with no difference from resurrection without any sense. Or rather, even resurrection would not form such absurd and horrifying postures. The next moment there was a snap, and this corpse cracked open directly, instantly shattering into pieces. In an instant, all the corpses displayed similar reactions. Seals barked upon witnessing this. Old Demon Duan has started destroying corpses. Pervert. Ah! Suddenly, a chunk of corpse flew over, shattering his mouth into a trumpet shape. He wanted to keep reprimanding Duan Yun and boasting God Ju. But when his mouth moved, it looked like blowing a trumpet. Both sides battling fiercely, it was a contest of endurance. God Ju had launched a fierce attack from the beginning, and until now, facing Duan Yun who was operating his mecha enthusiastically, he himself felt somewhat fatigued. He prided himself on being the most enduring man on earth. His 1,000 children were the best proof. But at this moment, he realized that sustaining this might not be to his advantage, because this pervert in front gave a sense of endless life with Dharma image. Manipulating death energy to such an extent, it was truly shameless, truly perverted. Yes, God Ju always had a standard. What he knew and others didn't was his special skill. What he couldn't do yet defeated him was trash. But rarely what he couldn't do and couldn't defeat was when opponents shamelessly thrived. Now, Duan Yun clearly belonged in that shameless category. Thus, the heavenly-like God Ju was enraged, deciding to unleash his next move. His real killing move. From the beginning to the end, his sword remained in its sheath. He hadn't drawn his sword yet. Facing Duan Yun's arrogant manipulation of Dharma image and shamelessness, God Ju finally drew his sword, the pink sword, pure and extreme in its hue. The sword light poured out along with the blade, seemingly amidst countless cherry blossoms flowing. Cherry blossom trees love. This was a move God Ju comprehended one day returning to his hometown, seeing his childhood sweetheart, whom he loved first, had been deceased for over 10 years, with her grave under a cherry blossom tree. God Ju had over 1,000 children, countless women he had been with, but whenever he was tired of the game, weary, playing like a sage calmly and lonely, he always remembered his first love, his purest love ever. He trained diligently for years, wanting to find the opportunity to ascend to the heavens. Because in the rumors of Fusang, there was a Fusang tree invisible to ordinary people which reached directly to the heavens, and the heavens had the immortal divine medicine. Once obtained, he could shout, "Resurrect, my love!" and resurrect his beloved. Though he claimed celestial heritage, with bloodline proving it, yet over the years he always fell short, falling short of returning to the heavens. Thus the resurrect, my love, could never be fulfilled, resulting in inevitable discontent in his heart. At this moment, discontent poured out with the extraordinarily beautiful cherry blossom sword chi, sweeping towards Duan Yun. Duan Yun, manipulating Dharma image, resolutely performed the 10,000 swords return to sex sword technique. Black sword chi and pink sword light clashed. Mutual defeat. Seemingly evenly matched, but at this moment, an endless sadness surged in Duan Yun's heart. He couldn't help but shout, "Resurrect! My love!" The next instant, Duan Yun suddenly realized he was influenced by the opponent's sword chi affecting his mindset. Damn you! Duan Yun couldn't help but also get angry. Usually, it's him fighting others to shout, "I want to be a great hero." But this time, he blurted, "Resurrect! My love!" Duan Yun was furious because compared to the upright nobility of, "I want to be a great hero," "Resurrect! My love!" felt overly sentimental to him, sentimental to the point of shame. After which, Duan Yun suddenly found his body felt lighter. Jade Sword Immortal Dharma image was dissipating. The surrounding death energy was insufficient to support the complete form of Dharma image further. Because after this pink sword, the surrounding corpses were chopped into powder, swept away by the sword wind. It could be said, now the entire city's daughter meat pieces were drifting in the air. Even without this Dharma image, this young hero could still defeat the evil demon. His twin swords followed his hand's motions, forming swirling sword chi. But the next moment, Duan Yun suddenly felt a bad premonition. That was the clouds in the sky dispersed. To be precise, they shattered. That cloud in the sky had always been connected to God Ju's chi mechanism. He was always under this cloud's shadow, meaning always within God Ju's chi mechanism array, you could say restricted repeatedly. And what he wanted was to break free from it, to break free from this cloud. Now this cloud voluntarily shattered. Duan Yun not only felt no relief, but a wave of fear.
Aurora 1000 kun cloud shattering slash.
The previous cherry blossom tree's love was merely God Ju's appetizer. His real killing move was this. In that instant, the clouds in the sky shattered, but new clouds formed on the ground. Duan Yun felt a dazzling sensation because the clouds on the ground carried a blinding light, constantly shifting. As Duan Yun felt a sting in his eyes, many onlookers had already covered their eyes and were rolling on the ground. The piercing light directly blinded their fragile eyes. Afterwards, something even more absurd struck Duan Yun, as if he had fallen into an illusion. For at that moment, the clouds on the ground had transformed into the form of wild chickens, as if dressed in suspenders, dancing wildly and releasing extremely sharp sword chi. This sword chi bore a terrifying tearing force, and from Duan Yun's whole body emerged pitch-black breaking body sword energy, while he deployed the spring rain blade energy in defense. The sword chi was barely blocked, but what about these chickens? Facing this terrifying sword technique, he couldn't close his eyes to fight, but the moment he opened them, it was like 1,000 chickens were dancing. It was a torment to both his eyes and mind. As soon as this slash appeared, God Ju knew he was bound to win. Or rather, since his debut under this move, there was no survivor. This move, Brilliant 1000 Kuan Shattering Cloud Slash of God Ju, was actually derived from a martial arts of Jojo. Jojo once had an invincible war god, skilled in wielding a broad blade, whose ultimate move, Brilliant Shattering Cloud Slash, could cut down thousands of troops alone. He was the strongest general under the emperor of all time in Jojo, and with his capability, even the ambition to overpower the world could be fulfilled. But at that time, the emperor and the war god general were at odds, sparking a huge turmoil, which was also the reason for the fall of the incredibly powerful Jojo dynasty. The young god Ju aspired to master the world's martial arts, and by chance, he became the disciple of the war god's descendant. That descendant, impressed by his talent, taught him the family martial arts, Brilliant Shattering Cloud Slash. But once the master died, God Ju revealed his wolf-like ambition. Previously, during his travels in the country of Han, he met a Han friend, with whom he shared candid thoughts, agreeing quite a lot with some of his friend's viewpoints, which was to take from others for self-use. As long as one stole thoroughly enough, what was originally others would become one's own. At that time, God Ju was already the strongest within the sect, and after the master's death, he killed all the fellow disciples and the master's descendants, leaving not a single one alive. In other words, he became the only one who knew Brilliant Shattering Cloud Slash. After that, Brilliant Shattering Cloud Slash became his unique martial art, and this originally JoJo martial arts became an authentic Fusang martial art. And God Ju was indeed one in a million, a genius, and once, he accidentally saw a flock of kuin. Kuin is a type of wild chicken, considered the most beautiful kind of wild chicken in the world. At that time, seeing a flock of kuin dance, his soul was so moved it trembled. Thus, he integrated the sense of awe from watching kuin dance into Brilliant Shattering Cloud Slash, forming Brilliant Thousand Kuin Shattering Cloud Slash. This became his ultimate developed move. Because of the deep spiritual impact the kuin had on him, it also became why he liked wearing suspenders and leaned on them to develop another unique skill, Heavenly God's Blood Force. Now, Duan Yun faced this perfected move, an absolute killing move that could shockingly destroy the divine soul and the body. With a scoff, God Ju drew his blade forward even more. Suddenly, the ground was filled with kuin dancing vigorously, exuding blinding sword light.
Prepare to die.
Jojo Pig. As God Ju continually drew his blade, for a moment, thousands of voices rang out, and sword light flickered. Inside and outside Biki City, there were cries and flickering sword light everywhere. The weak ones had already been blinded, rolling on the ground incessantly. The skilled ones, the experienced ones, had long activated their inner strength in their eyes, protecting their vision while observing these exquisitely ingenious moves. Witnessing such exquisite moves in the present world is a once-in-a-century opportunity. Some people were even shedding tears of blood from their eyes, yet still watching. As they watched, their bodies began to sway along, dancing as if within a sword array. Some with no straps tore their shirts straight away, making them into strap-like shapes, continually shrugging their shoulders in dance.
Eva realized.
Ha ha ha! Young master has succeeded. Quite a few people began laughing wildly, emitting cries, then starting to dance. For a moment, this change spread like a plague among the onlookers, causing the entire city to imitate the dancing. A glance revealed a multitude of voices and dancers. It was a grand feast of dance. And as for Duan Yun in the very core, though he strenuously resisted the extremely sharp sword chi, avoiding physical injury, his spirit could not bear it. How to describe this feeling? He looked at the many beautiful dancers and felt his head splitting into countless cracks, immensely painful. It's like Zhu Beiji being pricked by a scorpion demoness. Not deadly but madly painful, wishing to shake even the yolks apart to ease the agony. And at this time, the cries kept bursting from his ears. Chicken, 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 cluck, 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 brother GG. Even more dangerously, the deeper his spiritual pain became, the harder it was to maintain clarity in his mind, making the opponent's sword chi even sharper and more treacherous. Only to see Duan Yun jumping up in pain, a cunning sword chi brushed past his crotch, nearly causing an accidental loss of his gun. Duan Yun rolled in agony, only to see violent electric light burst forth. Electromagnetic sword field. As the electromagnetic sword field unfolded, even the dust in the air slowed down, along with the dance. Yet the dance's magic lay in even slowing down, still providing spiritual stimulation. This slow-motion effect, you could even see more details, such as those rooster feathers on the dancers' heads being parted evenly. Duan Yun felt his eyes going blind. Damn it! You make me suffer. I'll make you, this evil demon, feel the pain? 10-layered spring rain. Demon sword gentle and the famous blade emitted sword chi like red threads. These strands of sword chi, densely packed, continually danced, like flowing red silk, exceptionally dense. Feel the agony. Due to exerting the full force of Aurora Thousand Sound Slice, combined with the influence of the electromagnetic sword field, God Ju's speed was significantly affected. Facing the sword chi rain from Duan Yun, his figure swayed and dodged half, but the other half pierced his body entirely. Ah! God Ju let out an extremely shrill scream. If Duan Yun's pain felt like being pricked by a scorpion demoness, splitting the head in half. Then at the moment, with 10-layered spring rain sword chi inside him, God Ju felt like a cow. A cow adept at producing milk, that thing for producing milk aplenty. God Ju felt his entire body was filled with milk-producing parts, all being vigorously squeezed. The head seemed about to explode. Pain. It's too painful. Why can such pain exist? Can milk production hurt this much? It's all because those hands are too brutal. One strand of 10-layered sword chi is a big hand. Now with hundreds, thousands of strands piercing him, it equates to being savagely squeezed by thousands of hands. He's just a man. How could he endure? Duan Yun is suffering, he is suffering too. Duan Yun suffered, clutching his head in mid-air shaking, while God Ju was rolling in pain on the ground. In outsiders' eyes, the two seemed to be performing unique dances. Can dancing also kill? Can they dance each other to death this way? This puzzled many onlookers, yet they dared not question lightly. Such a level of master duel, how could they deduce? Duan Yun also realized mutual pain like this indeed could not kill the other. Amidst the intense suffering, he already felt like his body was growing fur, physical agony about to explode. He angrily shouted, "Extraordinary wisdom! I command you to solve everything." Extraordinary wisdom began to flicker. Duan Yun's mind suddenly enlightened. These eye-blinding dancers, speaking of them is ultimately a kind of chicken. Speaking of chickens, he couldn't help but think of roast chicken. Thinking of roast chicken led him to think of Jade Guanyin, Huangshan heroin, Red House Fairy, various famous devices. For a moment, the roasted chickens he killed played out like a revolving lamp through his mind. Now, in his eyes, the dancers were not such abstract ones pulling straps, but were the roast chicken evil women he'd slain. The evil women, though roasted, even at sight made one feel flavorful, yet ultimately better than these abstract dancers. Duan Yun suddenly got it. This was indeed the power of perception. The next moment, those straps turned into bindings. Seeing this, Duan Yun was ignited. Dance! Dance for me! That piercing headache of Duan Yun suddenly lessened, replaced by a surge of blood. His arms filled with infused power. He tightened his grip on the two blades, and the red line like 10-layered spring rain sword chi tightened along with it, smashing God Ju to the side. With a booming sound, as soon as God Ju landed, he felt like half of his soul had drifted away. Indeed, his whole body was being ravaged by thousands of ferocious hands, and this smash felt like needle pricks all over him, simultaneously pricking and ravaging him. Startled by the intense pain, God Ju dared not relax for a moment, continuing to wield the extreme light thousand ku and fragmented cloud slash without pause. As a top martial artist, he knew that only by maintaining constant output to inflict sustained pain on the opponent while enduring it himself, could balance be achieved and ultimately triumph through his strong bloodline and will. But now, what's unsettling him is that the mutual torture and pain, the balance where neither could spare the strength to fight the other, showed signs of being broken. Just now, the opponent condensed the sword chi and delivered a heavy smash to him. No, why does the opponent look at Kuan, and even at him, with increasingly fervent eyes? Evil demon! You smell so good, Duan Yun suddenly said. Duan Yun was still speaking in the Jiuzhou dialect, but since God Ju had traveled through Jiuzhou, he naturally understood the meaning of his words. No way, are you from Yu State or Yun State? Because at this moment, in Duan Yun's eyes, he had already turned into the image of his teacher from the past life. Indeed, extreme light thousand Kuan fragmented cloud slash wasn't under Duan Yun's control. Duan Yun could temporarily envision them as roast chickens, but they would quickly revert to their original split form. Yet Duan Yun had other means, illusions like mirror flower water moon. This time, his illusion was not directed at others but at himself. Manipulating others requires a fast and unique brainwave vibration to influence their minds and create illusions. Creating illusions for oneself is much simpler. No one understands himself better. So at this moment, whether it's the Kuan in the sword technique or the God Ju applying the technique, they all appeared as roast chickens in Duan Yun's eyes. Roast chicken, D. Duan Yun's hands flushed with blood again, splitting the painful sword chi connecting the two blades, pulling it in opposite directions, trying to tear God Jew apart completely. No, don't. At last, a child of the Jew family saw the trick and rushed over to save their father. Honestly, during this forward charge, these children felt a sense of unreality. They had never seen nor imagined their great father would be at a disadvantage. Yet at this moment, their father was not only at a disadvantage but faced the great danger of death. They hadn't become one of the 10 strong sons yet. Their father hadn't personally refined siblings into great medicine, and they hadn't been dearly loved by their father, who couldn't die. But alas, the heavens are so cruel, and the martial world's demon before them is so demonic. By the time they reached their father's side, he had already been torn in two by the sword chi like two large red hands. God Jew's blood rained down, drenching his devoted children as if the heavens were weeping. They even forgot to collect the blood to refine medicine. Previously, 2 of the 10 strong sons progressed by continually collecting their father's skin flakes for refining medicine. Some daring children could not help but think, if their father's skin flakes were so powerful, his blood and flesh must be equally formidable. Yet now, as their father's real blood and flesh fell upon them, they forgot all about it. Frightened, to some extent, God Jew was akin to their sky, like the face in the clouds above, always hovering over them. They were unable to escape it and willingly shrouded by it. But now, the myth in their eyes, the sky in their eyes, was torn into halves. But it's not over yet. Duan Yun had already torn God Jew into 4 pieces, and at this moment, his spirit suddenly relaxed, and the sword chi on his blade dissipated along with it. After battling so painfully for so long, imagining roast chickens, hallucinating roast chickens, even he, this incredibly enduring man, was somewhat drained. Duan Yun hadn't been this exhausted in a while. Now, seeing the opponent torn apart, he couldn't help but relax a bit. But at this moment, a bizarre scene unfolded. The upper half of God Jew's body, originally split at the chest, suddenly grabbed his hair, looking for the remaining body parts. This change was ghostly, startling Duan Yun. There's a legend in JoJo that consuming dragon essence and drinking phoenix blood grants immortality and makes one difficult to kill. Difficult to kill means even if someone is chopped into pieces, they can still reassemble and rebirth. Although God Jew hadn't reached the level of rebirth, he certainly had the idea. Duan Yun hurriedly gathered energy and struck out a jade sword finger, sending the chest piece that God Jew was looking for flying. God Jew continued to grab his hair and seek but was sent flying by Duan Yun once more. This time, he didn't go looking for the chest but went for the buttocks. As long as the piece below the neck connected with the buttocks, forming a legs beneath neck combination, it could enhance his ability to find the remaining body parts. With a slap, Duan Yun exerted force, smashing his buttocks with smoke, sending it flying. At this moment, the daughters of the Jew family regained hope. Stop him! Father is about to reassemble. A bunch of Jew family children charged at Duan Yun like mad, aiming to stop Duan Yun's vile act of preventing their father's revival. At this point, Duan Yun felt extremely exhausted, making it difficult to quickly resolve this group of reckless Jew family children. If they really managed to stall, allowing God Jew to revive, it would be bad news for him. In that instant, a bright, mirror-like sword light shone, blocking the advancing Jew family children. Seeing this, Duan Yun couldn't help but excitedly shout, "Azzy, well done! Azzy, your sister! I am Green Jade!" Green Jade complained loudly while manipulating the sword light. At that moment, Duan Yun noticed God Jew and his buttocks were just a step apart. Without hesitation, he summoned all his strength and delivered a palm strike. "Here I come for the buttocks." God Jew dramatically lifted his hair, raising his partial hair as it flew toward combining with the buttocks. However, just then, a booming explosion sounded. His buttocks flew. God Jew didn't give up. He never said die, relying on his powerful heavenly god bloodline and physique. He continued chasing, hair in hand.
Az, relay, relay.
Duan Yun shouted, "I'm the older sister. I am Green Jade, Green Jade. How many times do you want me to say it?" Green Jade scolded, already gazing at the flying buttocks of God Ju. Already annoyed, she leapt up, rotating her rounded solid long legs, delivering a fierce reverse golden hook. With a bang, God Ju's buttocks turned into a stream of light, flying to a high place, then vanished from sight. God Ju's incomplete body saw and shuddered, collapsing, unable to rise despite furiously tugging at his hair. The never say die God Ju fell. As he fell, his 7 orifices bled, his eyes full of resentment and unwillingness. How could there be such wicked people in this world? Eventually, he perished completely. Those desperate children of the Ju family saw and felt like their bones had been extracted, collapsing to the ground. The invincible father fell. Truly fell. At this moment, Duan-Yun genuinely felt utterly exhausted, dropping to the ground, drenched in sweat. And at almost the same instant, inside and outside Biki City, people knelt in unison, shouting, "All Fusang martial artists congratulate young hero Duan for journeying from afar, slaying demons and triumphing." In the eyes of many Jojo people, especially those from high state, Fusang people are noble and unyielding. But at this moment they were willing to submit even very thoroughly. Provided you were stronger than them, much stronger, and violently beat them near despair with the risk of extinction. They only submit to strength, to a true strongman who would kill them and truly does. Evidently, Duan-Yun was such a person. If anyone in Fusang refuses to yield, it means there's not enough killing. Just as all Fusang people in Biki City were kneeling, only the sea dog and bloodthirsty storyteller continued shouting. No, old demon was totally defeated. Really totally defeated. Avenge Lord Hai. Now is the time to slaughter demons. Some say that in this world, the person who understands you the most isn't your close friends or family, nor is it your bedmate lover, but rather your enemy. The bloodthirsty storyteller and Duan-Yun have a deep hatred. Though these clowns aren't worthy as his enemies, they certainly understand him the best, because they have spent a long time studying this opponent that sticks in their throat, and thanks to Tai Sui they can share this information. This time, when they said old demon is badly injured, they weren't lying. This was the experience they had concluded. And indeed, Duan-Yun was somewhat exhausted at this moment, or rather injured. Physical energy consumption was notable, not to mention mainly his spirit. He feared that he might dream of Kuan dancing for days and nights. The mental hurt was simply unprecedented. How could these clowns comprehend such an ugly move? Spirit and body are connected. Though Duan-Yun was victorious, fatigue was certain, which also matched the bloodthirsty storyteller's description of being badly injured. Unfortunately at this moment, whether it's the Ju family's children whose father was just killed, or the martial arts people from Fusang, all immediately knelt. Fusang people are like this. They don't respect you because you haven't been tough enough. As long as you are tough enough, they will only respect you like a god. Just like him right now, who is clearly an enemy who killed the Ju family father. Yet these children not only weren't thinking of revenge, they were considering sending their mothers for peace. God Ju has thousands of children, and presumably their pretty mothers are also thousands. If Duan-Yun indeed took over, he might earn the title of a husband-snatching demon. Duan-Yun's current status in Biki City might be several levels higher than Lord He. Stand up, no kneeling allowed. Old demon, truly is badly injured. The bloodthirsty storyteller rushed anxiously. At this point, the sea dogs refuted. Lord Hai's actions, how could you question them? Exactly, if Lord Hai wants to kneel, he will kneel and kneel loudly. But thinking that Lord Fusang Hai knelt to equally lowly Jojo people, the sea dogs were suddenly both pained and confused. What has become of this world? Lord Hai has suffered too much grievance. Can this world still be all right? At this moment, they all thought it might be better for the world to be destroyed since it couldn't be saved. Even some sea dogs with strong will couldn't bear the pain and confusion, and they went to hang themselves on branches, dying with eyes wide open, their gaze fixed on Duan-Yun, filled with venom, wishing to turn into vengeful ghosts and kill this extremely wicked man. But at this time, the bloodthirsty storyteller hasn't given up yet. They consider themselves the last line against demons, or rather the very bottom. The bottom line must be defended. If they give up, there will be no hope. The bloodthirsty storyteller also knows Duan Yun's situation isn't good, so they prepare to gamble. Without the courage for a full bet, how can they defeat the old demon? Tai Sui, lend us another 500 years. Tai Sui has lived for countless years. Though the remaining lifespan isn't endless, it is very precious. Yet to take down old demon Duan, these sacrifices are worthwhile. These bloodthirsty storytellers have seized the opportunity to come here, only now fully exposed. One could say they are the elite among bloodthirsty storytellers, possessing tolerance and decisiveness with excellent qualities. So at this time, they no longer hesitate, preparing to use Tai Sui's 500 years of life as a bet to defeat old demon Duan. If their limit were not just 500 years, they would gamble Tai Sui's 1,000-year lifespan. Even making Tai Sui half-dead is something they wouldn't refuse. Because to some extent, their hatred for old demon Duan exceeds their respect and admiration for Tai Sui. In the martial world, there's an ancient saying that hatred is a kind of demon, capable of blinding one's eyes and wisdom, which here has received some level of proof. The four bloodthirsty storytellers simultaneously took out a piece of pulsating green flesh, speaking in unison. 500 years. Tai Sui lend us 500 years to slay the demon and defeat old demon. Ah! Afterward, the four simultaneously swallowed the strange flesh, their bodies turning green-black, even emitting green-black light. The surviving sea dogs couldn't help but shout, "Damn!" They turned into Lord Hay. In this moment, the sea dogs only felt that this world was too unfamiliar. Unfamiliar to the point of disgust. A fist is power. A fist is authority. Fist in hand. Follow me. Kill old demon. Seize everything. Fist in hand. Follow me. Kill old demon. Seize everything. Though only four bloodthirsty storytellers were shouting, in an instant, inside and outside Biki City, even the whole world was flooded with their voices. Everyone, including Duan Yun and Green Jade, immediately felt that what they said made a lot of sense. Duan Yun and Green Jade even followed along and shouted, "Fist in hand, follow me, kill old demon, seize everything." After a while, Duan Yun couldn't help but confuse, who is old demon? And at this time, the Fusang people who had been kneeling in submission suddenly rushed towards them. Their eyes turned green, filled with confidence, chanting things like, "Follow me, kill old demon," and charged towards Duan Yun. Duan Yun knew this situation wasn't simple, and quickly sat and controlled his breathing to recover energy. These people charge recklessly, especially with the Ju family children and some hidden Fusang experts among them. Even facing Duan Yun at his peak, they wouldn't be able to win even if they fight with all their might, but now charging recklessly indeed can cause Duan Yun trouble. Ziyu stood out first, like a mirror, the sword light illuminating ahead. But most of these people were inherently shameless, or rather, Fusang as a tribe is inherently unashamed, so the effect of the moon-shielding light-shaming sword on them was limited. With the bloodthirsty storyteller's instigation, now they seem utterly unaffected. Thus, Green Jade can only suppress them with sword chi. Yet among these people are skilled fighters who are now entirely fearless. She knows she can't hold out much longer. But as Jade Girl, young hero Duan's current companion, she has no reason to retreat even a bit. At this moment, the appearance of the bloodthirsty storytellers has completely changed. Their whole bodies have turned green-black, like melting candles, and as they charge forward, their arms and legs have transformed into the shape of snakes, resembling humanoid octopuses at first glance. This is actually quite similar to one of Tai Sui's forms. In the bloodthirsty storyteller cult, followers unanimously believe that Tai Sui is the origin of the human world, or its essence. If one can resemble it, one can be called a god. Now they feel they are gods. Gods who control everything. This feeling is extraordinarily intense because people around them, regardless of gender or age, follow their orders without any resistance. Green Jade's sword is ruthless, and where the sword light passes, everything is cleanly cut in two, with a neat severance. To conserve energy, she doesn't exert more force than necessary. If 3 parts of force can kill an enemy, she never uses for. Yet, when the local corpses have formed a small mountain, she begins to feel weary and short of breath. Because these opponents are, in some respects, not human. Humans experience fear. Even those fearless in battle have fear. But these people do not. They are like puppets, continuously charging forward only to kill old demon and take everything. Faced with the situation before him, Duan Yun, who was practicing breathing control, felt a hint of annoyance and disgust. His true chi constantly operated at high speed within his body, and because of that annoyance, a thread of true chi veered off course, rushing into his flesh from the meridians. Duan Yun wanted to recapture it, but this thread of true chi was the most mischievous. Instead, it darted even faster like a playful child. The more Duan Yun grasped for it, the quicker and more chaotic its movements became. Finally, the true chi reached the vicinity of his skin. A familiar yet strange sensation arose momentarily. This feeling was familiar because it had appeared before, strange because it hadn't truly occurred. But at this moment, Duan Yun understood that it was about to happen, or rather, it already had. He was about to grow hair. Just then, Duan Yun's eyes suddenly turned red, and his body started to sprout needle-like things outward. In fact, having needles emerge from the body often happened to Duan Yun, because breaking body sword energy was as thin as needles. But this time, it was entirely different. The needles emerging from his body were not like silk rain of breaking body sword energy, nor the pitch black, deathly death chi breaking body sword energy, but red. Peculiar and ominous red. Confronted with that patch of red, the crowd that had completely lost their sanity was momentarily stunned. They only hesitated for a moment, and then, driven by the bloodthirsty storytellers, they charged forward again. The next instant, Duan Yun furrowed his brow and stood up. This standing up caused Green Jade in front to feel a chill on her back. She turned to look back, and at the moment she saw that patch of red light, her hair stood on end in cold terror. The ancients said, "Between life and death lies great terror." Green Jade never understood this saying, but now she does. She at least understands what great terror is now. What emerged from Duan Yun's body, like red hair, was great terror. Too terrifying. "Come behind me!" Duan Yun's voice rang out, and Green Jade quickly hid behind him like a compliant schoolchild. At this moment, Duan Yun stood there as though on the edge of an abyss. Simultaneously, in the eyes of others, he was also that abyss. Any normal person, upon seeing an abyss, wouldn't charge forward, but those rushing in now obviously aren't ordinary people. Faced with these abnormal humans, the abyss remained silent, opting only to shoot forth. In Green Jade's eyes, Duan Yun's ominous red hair had already swished and left his body. The red hair accurately pierced into the advancing Fusang people's bodies. These Fusang people originally still charged ahead but quickly fell to the ground, rolling around chaotically. As they rolled, their bodies kept swelling, like inflated goat skin rafts. Goat skin rafts can't inflate forever, because if it continues, there's only one result, and that is explosion. Complete explosion. Suddenly, series of terrifying explosion sounds echoed. Those Fusang people pierced by the hair had already exploded in extreme pain. Yes, they felt the pain would cause them to explode, and then they actually did. Each explosion was like a powerful fire thunder going off, sending flesh and blood flying around those nearby. In an instant, the ground was filled with pits, and the air was full of severed limbs, as if resembling hell. The bloodthirsty storytellers were shocked at the sight, but they still continued without pause, inciting, "Old demon can't make it, charge ahead." Those who went up were naturally all pierced by the hair, dying in explosions. As they exploded, they killed those around them, and in an instant there was explosion upon explosion, bodies shattered everywhere like literal purgatory. At this rate of explosion, even if tens of thousands of people inside and outside Biki City were incited, they would all soon die cleanly from explosions. Now Duan Yun truly possesses a sensation of plucking one red hair, blowing out a myriad of hairs. Because his body constantly emits red light, representing that the red hair is endless. In the next moment, Two bloodthirsty storytellers gritted their teeth, intending to incite the Zhu family children to launch a focused assault. In Duan Yun's view, those people wanted to escape. Trying to escape? He flicked his red-haired arm, forming a column-like shape. Due to the ominous glow from the red hair, it appeared as a light pillar from afar. The next instant, the light pillar swept across, causing the Zhu family children, who were attempting to change formation, to explode and fragment, with flesh flying everywhere. Such a scene even startled the bloodthirsty storytellers, who were resembling Tai Sui. They decided to gather more manpower and devise a long-term strategy to deal with Duan Yun. They borrowed 500 years from Tai Sui, and in essence they were doomed to death as they would be assimilated by Tai Sui meat, but the assimilation would take time, meaning they could still incite more people, gather more force. With old demon Duan suddenly undergoing anomalous mutation, there is no need to force a frontal assault when his power is at its peak. Thus, they chose to maneuver, but in Duan Yun's eyes, these people were trying to escape. Trying to escape? Duan Yun extended his hand, and the red hair on his arm immediately gathered at his palm. The red hair flowed, and the light flowed with it, appearing like a railgun charging up. Then, completing the charge with a loud boom, a projectile formed by the red hair shot forth. Terrifying whipping sounds filled the air, and many vortexes formed in the air, where the red hair cannon swiftly traversed. In a finger snap, the red hair cannon fell, leading to endless screams. The two bloodthirsty storytellers were blown to bits. The screams originated from their mouths dropping to the ground. Duan Yun stood there. His crimson gaze covered the area. Wherever he found irritable, the red hair would instantly descend, annihilating everything. Presently, merely standing there, Duan Yun had become the most terrifying turret in the human world. In such a short time, Duan Yun had slaughtered over 1,000 people. The remaining people, due to the bloodthirsty storytellers being blown to pieces, quickly regained their sanity. The instant these people regained clarity, facing Duan Yun, the earthly cannon, their first reaction was to kneel, shouting, "Spare our lives, great hero!" The majority of these people could barely speak Jojo's language, but at this moment, survival instinct suddenly taught them this phrase. The bloodthirsty storytellers were blasted into scraps, and the Fusang people knelt once more, devoid of any alternative thoughts. Even if among the thousands Duan Yun killed, many were their closest kin. They dared not think of revenge, knowing only to lie prostrate. This unequivocally proved one saying, "If these people still harbor resentment towards you and do not fully submit, it means you have not killed fiercely enough." However now, seeing these 10,000 people submit, Duan Yun, exuding ominousness, finally felt a hint of satisfaction. Enough! Duan Yun uttered this phrase, and those ominous red hairs seemed unwilling yet obediently vanished. Many things in the human world apply similarly. If the red hair doesn't obey, it only proves you're not fierce enough. And now, merely standing there, Duan Yun demonstrated the demeanor of the fiercest human in the world. Green Jade looked at Duan Yun, unable to resist creating a new alias for him, Fierce Emperor, who suppresses all worldly foes. God Zhu had fallen. The bloodthirsty storyteller who consumed Tai Sui meat also fell, and all around there were no more questions, only countless cries of Suma Mason. The remaining Fusang people, even though close friends and relatives had just died by Duan Yun's hand, held no resentment, only heartfelt Suma Mason and the urge to become Duan Yun's dogs. Before Duan Yun went to sea, he promised to break through the Fusang martial arts world, and now he has made significant progress. Because God Zhu was a formidable opponent. Or rather, he was a benchmark for the Fusang martial arts world. And now, the benchmark has fallen, struck down by Duan Yun's sheer power. What delighted Duan Yun was not defeating such an opponent, as defeating evil demons was his duty, just like how justice will eventually triumph over darkness, and the light of righteousness will soon shine on the path ahead. There's no need for pride. Duan Yun was thrilled by his own breakthrough. This time, because of this unexpected incident, the red hair he had longed for appeared all over his body. Not only did it appear, it became a powerful weapon. He felt like a human cannon, able to target anyone he wished. And in reality, whether it be elite Fusang warriors or ordinary people, once struck by his red hair, none survived. The key is, after using this red hair, it instantly regenerates as if endless, eternally flourishing. However, at this moment, when Duan Yun dispersed the red hair and returned to normal, he was not eager to use this ominous red hair again. Because just now, when using the red hair, a strange murmuring suddenly appeared in his ears. These voices seemed to come from another world or a mysterious abyss, trying to pull him in. At the same time, his whole demeanor became peculiar, constantly in an extreme state of exhilaration. To be precise, it was a sort of uncontrollable frenzy. The murmurs were numerous, as if many things were speaking, bizarrely unlike human sounds, and faintly, he could only make out snippets like, "I made it! It really worked!" giving a sense of foreboding. The more he used the red hair, the more serious the situation became, until eventually he felt himself being dragged in. Thankfully, in the end, equipped with extraordinary wisdom and unrivaled talent, along with boundless heroic spirit, he managed to suppress everything, thus avoiding losing control. He alone was truly capable. Duan Yun even understood the reason why the Murong ancestor had ominous late years and his relationship with the 12 layers of spring rain. It really isn't something an ordinary person can grasp. Luckily, he is not ordinary. Though Duan Yun is confident, it is rational confidence. He knows he must be at his peak when using the red hair to be safe, as extraordinary wisdom, robust physique, unrivaled talent, and boundless heroic spirit all must be present. Missing any might prevent complete suppression of the ominousness. By this time, dawn was breaking. Duan Yun can be said to have fought through the night, feeling tired and hungry. Thus, he decided to eat first. As soon as he made this decision, a feast was delivered to him. Yes, a feast, not a meal. A feast is much more elaborate than a meal. Even though Duan Yun has traveled far and wide for years, quite experienced, he had seldom seen such a feast. Numerous naked women were laid out with food and carried to Duan Yun. Most of the food was seafood, with its aroma filling the air, and the women were naturally beautiful and full of charm. Most of the naturally beautiful ones were the wives of men from the Zhu family, while the charming ones were the mothers of the Zhu family's children. Having killed God Zhu, their biological father, they now wished to acknowledge Duan Yun as father. Offering wives and mothers was commonplace. After all, it's popular in Fusang. If you haven't noticed this trend, perhaps you haven't killed Fusang people hard or enough. Sadly, in at least a century, Duan Yun is the only one from Zhuzhou to enjoy this treatment. Most of the time, Fusang people are superior. Many from Zhuzhou dare not desecrate them. This time, many dogs of the sea came to witness Duan Yun being cruelly killed by Fusang's Lord Hai. But alas, those whose will wasn't top-notch have already committed harakiri or hung themselves. On this journey, they witnessed unprecedented blows and humiliation to Fusang's Lord Hai, who was sacred and unassailable in their eyes. Unable to accept this reality, they chose death. By now, the remaining sea dogs were the most resolute, most fit to push back against adversity. Yet seeing Lords Hai serving wives and mothers as platters, they could hardly endure, feeling breathless and trembling intensely. This adversity is bitter beyond imagination, bitterer than being crushed into nothingness. As Duan Yun watched the food being served, ready to eat, he was called away by the awoken Ziyu in the morning. Ziyu said, if Duan Yun dared to eat, then she would dare to spread rumors, telling Feng Linger, Shining, and the Murong siblings how young hero Duan was living in Fusang. Not to mention Shining and Feng Linger, even the Murong siblings might jump up to fight him. No choice, the Murongs are the least able to see their brother suffer, and equally unable to see their brother ride a fine horse. Now if you tell him Duan Yun is riding a foreign horse, wouldn't he cling to your leg and roll around? Young hero Duan fears nothing nowadays, except when his friends lose their temper. In Yuzhu manner, when the boyfriend loses his temper, it's already quite headache-inducing, but the women are even worse. Thus, Duan Yun only ate a few types of seafood before leaving. though he didn't really regret it, always feeling that the seafood tasted a bit strange. Could it be that the seafood merged with these unclothed women, creating another kind of taste? Duan-Yun left without eating much, causing everyone in Biki City to be terrified, fearing it's a sign of his displeasure. And those most eager to host the feast, the daughters and sons of the Zhu family, were utterly disappointed. It seems the hope of recognizing a new father is gone, blaming only their mother and wife for not being competent. Many among them wanted to acknowledge Duan-Yun as their father. Let Duan-Yun beat them once. Only then would their hearts be at peace. Zhu Qing was among them. As the daughter of the Zhu family, she only hated herself for not being surnamed Duan. Unable to be Duan-Yun's obedient daughter? Otherwise, she would have endless possibilities. After all, Fusang, this place, is filled with various virtues and vices. While Zhu Qing was worrying about this, a voice sounded, "Let me ask you something. Ask you're old." Upon hearing the Fusang language, Zhu Qing instinctively wanted to curse someone, because she indeed hated it most when people ask questions while she is worrying. But the next moment, Zhu Qing's expression changed, becoming gentle as water, her voice soft and sweet, because she saw Duan-Yun beside Ziyu. "Father is back. Father specifically came to find me?" Ziyu, with a darkened face, asked in Fusang language, "Do you know any news about the great heavenly dog?" Duan-Yun came this time for two reasons. One is to defeat the Fusang martial arts world. The second is to find a couple of new swords, because his Huangshan Great Golden Sword is worn out and needs replacing. These two things are not independent, but can be carried out simultaneously. He can defeat the Fusang martial arts world. After all, the great heavenly dog is a part of it, while grabbing a new sword which helps him defeat the martial arts world. This time, Duan-Yun hasn't fully utilized his strength. All because, as the dual masters of sword and saber, he often could only use a saber, limiting himself. If he had swords, his temporary upper limit might be even higher. Zhu Qing immediately knelt on the ground, her cherry blossom kimono revealing her bosom to show respect, saying, "Father, no, young hero, the great heavenly dog's whereabouts have always been mysterious, but I will do my utmost to find out for you." Ziyu, somewhat displeased, asked, "How long will you use all your strength? Surely there must be an exact time." Zhu Qing replied, 7 days? I'll definitely find out within 7 days. Saying this, she looked at Duan-Yun, her eyes filled with determination. Actually, she was gambling by saying this, because as another giant of the Fusang martial arts world, compared to the Zhu family, the great heavenly dog is much more low-key and mysterious. It's likely she won't find anything even if she uses all her strength. But she decided to gamble, because only by gambling would she have the chance to be his daughter. Afterward, Duan-Yun and Ziyu left. They agreed to meet Zhu Qing here again after 7 days. To be safe, Duan-Yun and Ziyu went to find 2 other people to investigate the great heavenly dog's whereabouts. Initially, Duan-Yun thought he might need to employ some methods, but he found that Biki City was full of guides. Duan-Yun and Ziyu left Biki City, and within and outside it, his legend spread everywhere. His news spread quickly, as did his fame, not only because he killed Fusang martial arts elder god Zhu, but also because many people were praising him. Most of those praising him were local Fusang people. They were extremely submissive to Duan-Yun. Their praise and admiration for him was no less than that for god Zhu back then, and this group even got a new name, Hero Blow, Hero Dog. There weren't many sea dogs left. They saw their noble Fusang Lord Hai turned into Hero Dog, feeling like they were dogs eating feces, and suddenly their owner also came to eat feces, fighting with them for it. For a time, the terrifying tales of the demon of Jiuzhou circulated throughout Fusang, becoming the most feared legend there recently. Some said Duan-Yun might be Jiuzhou's greatest vengeful spirit, coming to Fusang to vent his animosity. Some questioned why a Jiuzhou vengeful spirit would cross the ocean to Fusang to claim lives. The Fusang people realized it was because some Fusang people loved showing off in Jiuzhou, acting as Lord Hai, leading Jiuzhou's vengeful spirit to take lives. Many people agreed with this view, first and foremost the Zhu family. Nowadays, the Zhu family is said to be pushed down by all, once walking arrogantly in Fusang, now becoming the culprits. Someone even suggested killing all Zhu family members to appease Duan Yun's anger. But when real action was considered, some backed down. Though the Zhu family has been slaughtered thoroughly, the survivors aren't ordinary people that can be easily provoked. And people like Zhu Qing from the Zhu family chose to endure patiently. When I recognize a new father and change my surname to Duan, you will feel fear and regret. In these 2 days, Zhu Qing truly felt the warmth of the world. Previously, when she gathered information, it was free. Now everything costs money and she may face disdain. Luckily, Zhu Qing had plenty of money. Offering heavy rewards still attracted many willing to gather information. The result was uncertain, as the last appearance of the Great Heavenly Dog was half a year ago, and there were many rumored places of the Great Heavenly Dog's seclusion. She could only cast a wide net hoping to catch a big fish. If money were insufficient, she would take her siblings' inheritance. After all, many people of the Zhu family died this time. Their wealth was useless, better used for her to recognize a new father. After Zhu Qing spent a lot of money, she indeed found some clues. That is a very famous insider spy team ultimately found the current place of seclusion of the Great Heavenly Dog. Source Valley's Source Palace, this extremely mysterious valley of Fusang, rumored to be the origin of Fusang's heaven and earth. Just because it is too mysterious, ordinary people have no way of knowing its precise location, nor the fact that several generations of Great Heavenly Dogs secluded there, even building a source palace. Only those who understand know the Great Heavenly Dog has the title Source God because of this valley and this palace. Of course, this spy team only said the Great Heavenly Dog might be inside and dared not guarantee their presence within, because they dared not casually enter that valley and that mysterious eerie palace. But they had their own evidence. That evidence was a big red pair of underwear found in the stream outside the valley. This underwear was large, 3 to 4 times bigger than normal, like for a giant. Such underwear, only the Great Heavenly Dog could wear it. Because the Great Heavenly Dog was originally a person of immense stature, standing like a heavenly dog descending. Another characteristic is very wide hips. Only people with wide hips could wear such large underwear. After fiercely smelling the scent on it, the spies confirmed it was a very fresh scent, not leaving the Great Heavenly Dog's body more than 5 days ago. Zhu Qing heard this intelligence. Looking at the big underwear, couldn't help but believe it somewhat. She could even subtly infer the Great Heavenly Dog might be a woman, because the underwear had a woman's scent. Fusang had a saying, a woman's hips are bigger surpassing an immortal. This Great Heavenly Dog's hips this big, what kind of immortal figure it would be. To ensure the accuracy of the information, Zhu Qing decided to personally head to Source Valley to be a spy and left behind people in Biki City to wait for Duan Yun. When Duan Yun arrived at Biki City as agreed, he found several guides who gave information. And after he and Ziyu analyzed it, they found Zhu Qing's information was indeed the most reliable. At least there was a big pair of underwear as evidence. Moreover, from the diary of a previously killed Source Palace noble, he learned the secret of the Great Heavenly Dog obtaining the divine sword. And in such a distant place, another Source Palace appearing didn't seem like a mere coincidence. Thus Duan Yun decided to go to Source Valley. It's time to reclaim his divine sword. Zhu Qing, young in age, but entirely cyan, intensely cyan. She had never been so cyan nor so light, and it was all because this place was extraordinary. Now Zhu Qing's whole body was dyed green, completely dyed, with juices derived from crushed leaves and grass, blended and brewed with a secret technique. She was painted from head to toe, and at a glance, she blended with the surrounding green trees and emerald grass, emitting a fresh scent of vegetation, making it impossible to distinguish her from nature. A clever emerald bird perched on the treetop, and as she walked past, it remained entirely unaware. This was not only because Zhu Qing was cyan enough, but also light enough. She employed the unique cultivation technique of the Zhu family, her hands and feet like they had pads, landing without a sound. Her body was as agile as a civet. Even when slipping through the jungle, she rarely disturbed the leaves and branches. Because her figure seemed almost boneless, she could twist into all kinds of positions and weave through them. The origin of Fusang ninjas was indeed assassins. Assassins could be said to be one of the oldest professions in the martial world, and the Fusang people excelled at this, especially female ninjas whose bodies were lethal weapons themselves. While you are still admiring her body's flexibility and beauty, as well as her 18 different postures, she would end your life at the moment of your greatest enjoyment and relaxation. For example, Zhu Qing's legs were deadly. They once effortlessly squeezed several crocodiles to death, and now they silently let her pass through this forest. Zhu Qing's expression was solemn, her movements done very seriously. Even though there should be no one around, she didn't dare relax even slightly, because this was the Source Valley, the location of the Source Palace. The great heavenly dog is the Source God, so if he's here, there would be divine means. She must be cautious. She was following the stream upwards because that huge red undergarment floated down from the stream, which meant this was the closer, correct direction. The sound of the stream water was right by her ears, and Zhu Qing kept walking without knowing how long she had walked. When she entered the valley, it was just early morning. At that time, one could still see the warm sun casting on the valley, and by this time she could no longer see the sunlight. The valley blocked the light, and around her rose a layer of mist. She couldn't distinguish if it was noon or dusk. Zhu Zhong realized this white mist was actually a kind of toxic miasma, but for someone with her powerful bloodline it posed no problem. Since childhood, Zhu Qing treated herself as a ninja for training, and one common method ninjas used for killing was poisoning. She could hide poison in any part of her body. For instance, hiding poison in her groin could kill silently. Through her bloodline, she developed an invulnerability to all poisons. Zhu Qing always had confidence in her abilities. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to venture here. Yet in this valley, she couldn't muster any confidence. Clearly, nothing had happened, and her concealment was perfect, yet she felt a sense of unease. Suddenly, Zhu Qing's expression tensed because she heard some voices. The sounds probably weren't close, like echoes of loud speech from afar in the valley. Yet inexplicably, she felt the sounds were nearby, as if someone was whispering malevolently. Zhu Qing hurriedly continued moving inward. Just then, her foot suddenly found empty space, and she began to fall. In front of her unexpectedly appeared a cliff, and Zhu Qing, caught off guard, went plummeting down. However, she was after all a ninja, and quickly reacted. Her legs spread, a hook cable shot out from her pant leg, hooking onto the cliff face, swinging her across. Zhu Qing landed on the cliff face, feeling somewhat frustrated. She hadn't expected to make such a rookie mistake. This indicated her emotions were still affected. Or perhaps, since entering this valley, her mind had never settled, almost as if in conflict with this place. Zhu Qing adjusted her breathing, grasped the rope, and agilely slid down. Because of the surrounding fog, she couldn't see the cliff bottom, so she continued exploring downward. During her descent, her feet would press against the cliff, her hand would shake, and the hook cable would release from the cliff, falling with her body, only to hook back again with a flick, the entire process smooth as flowing clouds and water. Suddenly, Zhu Qing slipped, a shock running through her entire body, because she felt she had stepped on something alive. Just as she was about to look down, everything turned white before her eyes, and her entire self, including the hook cable, flew out. Zhu Qing landed heavily on the ground, seeing stars, blood emerging from her 7 orifices, feeling like she lost half her life. Yet she still struggled to her feet, thankfully having only broken a few ribs. For the Duan family, a few ribs were nothing, having little impact. Zhu Qing couldn't help but look up, feeling a chill running through her body. She was knocked down by something alive. Although she didn't see what it was, she could sense it was a massive creature. What was that thing? For a moment, Zhu Qing only felt the valley grow stranger and more terrifying, with clouds swirling above. She continually sensed that massive creature was still up there. Zhu Qing endured the pain and walked forward. Because of the injury, her muscles and blood became even more excited. The Duan family inherently possessed the greater strength in battle. This position as a daughter was hers for sure. Thinking that with determined effort, she might become Duan Yun's new daughter, Zhu Qing suddenly felt full of energy. She did not know the direction, and could only walk downwards according to the terrain. At this time, she remained completely green and blended into the surroundings. In front of her, the mist was growing thinner, and as she passed through the last veil-like mist, her breathing became much more rapid. As a member of the Zhu family, Zhu Qing had seen beautiful and stunning sceneries, and the Zhu family was even skilled in creating stunning sights. But at this moment, as she stood there looking at the scene before her, she was still amazed by its beauty and charm. In front was a cherry blossom grove that easily reminded one of their hometown, with a purity that was stunning. Yet, no cherry blossom could compare to the grandeur of that palace. It appeared to be a tall palace, and Zhu Qing was unsure of how many floors it had, only knowing that each floor was at least 2 or 3 zhang high, resembling a mountain at a glance. The bottom of the palace was brown, indicating it was originally wood-colored, but the upper part was snowy white, immaculate, appearing as if covered by snow. Yet the weather in this valley didn't seem like it was snowy. This should be the famed Source Palace. Zhu Qing, dressed in green, walked through the cherry blossom grove and found that not only were there no guards, she didn't even discover a single person or mechanism. At this time, the Source Palace's doors were wide open, unwatched. Zhu Qing crouched outside for a while, and after confirming nobody was there, she entered through the open doors. The palace was silent, eerily so, and everything around was beautiful, with plain painted screens and glazed lanterns, evoking the charm of Jiuzhou. Zhu Qing was not entirely unfamiliar with Jiuzhou. On the contrary, she knew many things in Fusong were learned from Jiuzhou, including her father's extraordinary skills, and this Source Palace seemed more in the style of Jiuzhou. All around was silence, and Zhu Qing walked up to the 4th floor without encountering any obstacles. There was not a single person, or rather, not a trace of people. Could there be no one here? The entire palace was quiet as a graveyard. Yet Zhu Qing increasingly dared not let down her guard. In front, the carved staircase continued upward, and Zhu Qing silently stepped up. This floor had many light gauze draperies, dancing in the wind, looking particularly beautiful. Suddenly, Zhu Qing heard a bit of laughter. The instant this laughter appeared, she curled up on the ground. The sound came from behind the gauze in front. By this time, she could vaguely hear the sound of water. It was the sound of someone bathing. Through the gauze drapery, she could vaguely see 2 shadows. But these shadows alone on the gauze drapery instilled quite a bit of fear in her. Because their necks were long, grotesquely so, and unable to see the tub, Zhu Qing only felt as if 2 snake demons with human heads were bathing. Splashing sounds echoed as those bathing likely finished and exited the tub. Zhu Qing concealed herself behind a pillar, holding her breath, nearly merging with it. At that moment, she saw the full appearance of those 2 people. At the instant she saw them, goosebumps rose all over her. Previously imagining them as long-necked snake demons was better, but now they weren't snake demons as they possessed human bodies and limbs. Their abnormal long necks were upright and connected to the body. The human-like yet non-human feeling was the truly terrifying part. Simultaneously, their faces were gaunt, resembling a sort of monkey. Both were dressed in long skirts, and the one on the left held a chain, tethering the other's neck as one would a dog, and led the person away. At this time, the 2 gradually disappeared down the corridor ahead. Zhu Qing was just about to breathe a sigh when suddenly her entire body tensed. These strange people with long necks had clearly turned a corner, yet they suddenly turned back. To be precise, their heads turned back. With their long necks, what appeared before Zhu Qing's eyes were 2 floating human heads. Their gaunt faces smiled with the most sinister aura. Am I discovered? That was Zhu Qing's first thought. But she remained motionless, like a lifeless piece of wood. The heads swayed, looking everywhere, occasionally sniffing as if searching for something. What they were searching for was self-evident. Had they smelled her scent, or something else? What made Zhu Qing's scalp tingle even more was that the palace lights were lit, and under the glow, she noticed shadows appearing behind many windows and gauze. The shadows of those long-necked strange people were more terrifying than ghosts. Suddenly surrounded by so many people, Zhu Qing knew she had to move. For with their movements, she would eventually be discovered here. Silently, Zhu Qing climbed up the pillar as if she were a gecko. Above the palace were beams, and Zhu Qing quickly sprang into action. She wriggled like a worm, not only making no sound but at a fast pace. Because she noticed that those long-necked strange people that appeared out of nowhere seemed to have discovered something and were closing in on her. Their motions weren't fast, even slow, their limbs uncoordinated, like elderly people. Knowing all martial arts under the sky, only speed cannot be overcome. If these strange people's speed was really like this, she could defeat hundreds of them.